Board meeting of January 25th, 2022. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And this is being videotaped and broadcast by Area 58 Community Access Media. And the notes for the meeting are being taken by the video tonight, so if everybody could please speak into the microphone when we are talking, and give us your name before you speak. And if you, there is a sign-in sheet on the table there, and if everybody could please sign in so that we send this off to the the lady doing our notes by the video to help her. So the first thing we have for discussion tonight is, and we have John Woods with us, the DPW director, is we have in our packets the new layout of a section of Montello Street, and it's as a town way, and John's here tonight, John Woods is here tonight to just kind of speak about this.
Good evening. So where would you like me to begin, Bruce? What would you guys like to know about it?
Well, could you just tell us how this all came about and what we're talking about? I know that I went to your office and I was a little confused. We had like 3 sheets here. And so, what John and I discussed is, I guess everybody's gone down Route 58 and they've seen the new cutout in the woods. And that's a new section of Montello Street. And so we have engineering plans here drawn by VHB and I believe, and they show that new section of road. So that's going to be the access into the new business park. So, and I guess that's the portion of the road that we're looking at tonight, and possibly recommending to approve that layout there.
Yeah, to accept that road.
Yeah, so it's already under construction. And then when I spoke to John, he said, so we're looking at that tonight, just that portion, because I didn't know if it was all of Montello Street or what. And then John said that eventually there's going to be a barricade as in the rear portion of where the hardware store is. So that portion of the road is going to be blocked off so that traffic from the business park will just use the new access, that short stubby access that we see now being where the trees are cut down and the road is being laid out, and that's going to go out to Route 58. So it's just a simple thing for us to approve that that section of road tonight, so that can go to the selectmen who have to approve that to go to town meeting. And the way that when I spoke to John about this, part of the reason for this is also for our approval is so that they can snowplow that, because if it isn't an approved town road, then they wouldn't be able to maintain that. So after I said all that, I don't know if you have anything more to say,
Yeah,
John,
just
please.
that Montello Street right now is already accepted town road. So it's just going to be a small portion of the new section, like Bruce said, that we would be accepting. It just makes sense to accept the whole road, just for maintenance and just moving forward when the contract or whatever does happen at that site. Once they move on, they're going to be gone. If something happens with that road or anything like that, and we don't have the right to do anything there, it could cause some problems. So to me, it makes sense that I recommend that we accept that section of Montello Street.
The new section.
The new section, yes.
Yeah, because the old part of Montello Street, from 58 to the Plimpton line, that was already a public road.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep, and like Bruce said, it's gonna be about 50 feet past the delivery entrance of Abishon, which is the entrance behind it. About 50 feet past that is where I think it's a guardrail that's gonna block off the road. And the reason for that is because if you've been down there, right now, there's a telephone pole in the middle of the road. We have it barricaded off right now, but that's one of the main reasons that that road will be shut down like that for safety.
All right, any questions by any of the planning board members?
Is this currently town property?
Right now, I believe that it is not, I think the contractor owns that section of the road right now, and that's why we want to accept it, just so it will become town property
Now,
and a town road.
typically, when we accept roads for private developments and such like that, there's a bond that comes along with it. Has that been proposed in this case?
That would be a better question for Elaine Weston and Shelby. They're doing kind of all the invoices and the paperwork for that side of it. Once Jim left, I kind of got thrown into the middle of this project that was already kind of on its way, so I'm not really sure about a bond.
Okay.
And this is a Mass Works grant that this road's being built by, so there's no, money coming out from the town or anything like that.
Right, well, according to the traffic studies, it's gonna be a huge increase in traffic, which means a lot of wear and tear on the road, and it's gonna have to be kept clean.
Yep.
And typically, the bond is used to cover those expenses in regards to that.
Yeah, I can't answer that question right now.
All right.
Yeah, this was all covered by the grant that we got, was it a year or two ago?
Well, that was to build it,
Yeah, to build it, yeah.
but it doesn't cover potholes and wear and tear from the trucks and traffic now.
I think that's, yeah, I don't know. This is just-
Once we accept the road, though, we accept it. So that means we're taking responsibility
Right,
to
and typically,
maintain
we
it.
accept the bond that was associated with that in order to work that out for all future repairs and such.
Is there going to be any other businesses along this, aside from this thing supplying road traffic to a business park?
Not that I'm aware of, no. No,
But-
I don't believe so.
It will connect to the residential area back there.
It will connect to the Plimpton end of town.
Yes.
Yep, yep. But it already does, that's really not gonna change.
That's our
already-
section of the road already.
Exactly, that's
yeah.
already,
We're just looking
nothing's
at
gonna
the
change there except for some, new
300
pavement up that
feet or
end.
so, right?
Yep.
Is there gonna be set of lights up in there?
There's gonna be a set of lights, yes, at that new, entrance and exit, yep.
And it's gonna have one dedicated turn lane, left turn, heading north on 58.
Mm-hmm.
Is it gonna have is that the only turn lane? Is there gonna be a?
So there'll be a turn lane coming from north and south, and then when you're leaving that road coming onto 58, I'm not sure if I'm assuming there's gonna be a left and a right, obviously lane to go left or right.
I see a left or right coming out. I didn't see one heading south, though.
Most of the
Is,
traffic's gonna be coming from the south, most likely getting off, Route 44
Right, right.
is what the plan is.
Now, along for those, on those turn lanes, is that, are those painted barriers, or is that islands that are going to be constructed on the road
Turn, in the lanes, it's probably just gonna be paint.
to form the lane?
Probably just gonna be paint dividing the lanes. They probably won't put any barriers up, because if they're gonna be taking tractor trailers out of there, they're gonna wanna make wide turns and not have to worry about curbing and islands. So I'm not aware of any islands that are going in there.
Is this, these set of lights gonna interfere with the set of lights that are up at the tractor store there? Meaning, like,
Interfere,
if you have a few vehicles, supposedly take a left turn, and they get stopped at those lights, is it gonna cause an issue down there?
I wasn't really involved with the traffic study. Mass Works did that, so they must have, they're the experts with that, so they must have thought it would be okay to have, I questioned the traffic lights being so close together also. They didn't feel that it was gonna be a problem.
But we're just here to look at that little piece of Montello Street that touches Route 58 and goes up to the old Montello Street. I mean, that does show the layout, and it looks like future
And I do
work that they're gonna
understand
do.
that, it's just, you're okay in everything that's here, so you're not questioning anything that's on here.
Yeah, no, but, no, I understand that, but it's just,
That stuff's going in regardless of whether we accept the road or not.
yeah. It's mostly just to accept that layout. But this was all worked on by the state
That's
anyway,
correct,
so, and laid out by the state and the engineering company that's doing this.
So why would we need to accept this now and not,
Okay.
You're not, I don't think you're accepting it tonight. I think you're just maybe making a motion to bring to the select board that you guys all agree that you do want to accept the road.
Right.
right, but why would we go forward now?
I
And
think, I
So-
think Amy might have a.
Thank you. So Amy Questle, Town Council, KP Law. So accepting a roadway is it's a four-step process where the planning board first refers the acceptance of the roadway to the select board. The select board then puts it on the warrant. And then town meeting then votes for it. Say they vote in the positive, so they accept the road as a public road. Then there's work on the backside that the select board does with regard to accepting easements, filing with the registry. They have to do all kinds of things within 120 days. So this section of roadway will be transferred to the town. Mr. Shea, so you had asked about the ownership. It will become town land. There will be a permanent easement for this public way, and that's in the works. So the planning board, by statute, to accept a roadway, the planning board has to recommend it to the selectmen to put it on the town meeting warrant.
So that's what we're here for tonight.
Yes.
It is, yeah, it's,
Is there gonna be more roadway that we are gonna be looking at accepting?
I'm sorry, like as
Is
far
there
as
gonna
this
be-
project goes?
For this project?
So this
Or
project
there
is
more-
just that little sliver that they're adding on. Montello is already an accepted road, so it's basically just accepting this access part of it to complete the street, I guess you could.
Right, I'm talking about going into the business park.
Okay, once you get to the business park, that's privately owned.
Where does that start?
That starts right at Park Avenue, so you'd have to drive up Montello Street, and you have to take a left into Park Avenue. It's right at the end of Montello, I guess. Right before you get into Plimpton, there's a left that would bring you into that business park. And that will be all private from there in. They'll be maintaining all that. That will be privately owned.
So, what does this look like when it actually meets Montello? This part that's not drawn up.
The part that's not drawn up at Park Avenue you're talking about?
I don't know, I see Montello Street right here.
Okay. And it goes up to Park
And-
Avenue.
And-
Are you familiar
and it
with that
goes-
area
and
at all?
this goes off the page, and this goes off the page.
Okay.
What does all this look like up here?
That looks like it's private. That's going to be, when you get into Park Avenue, where,
I don't know where Park Avenue is.
okay, well, I don't know how else to explain it to you, except you drive up Montello Street and you have to take a left into Park Avenue, without
So is
going out.
Park Avenue right here on
It's
the other
north,
side of
yeah,
this?
I don't have my plans in front of me, so it's probably a little bit north of the, off the sheet, and then it's a left going in.
Well, north is up over this way.
No,
No,
John,
north is that
It goes
way.
like this. So it's in likelihood, this is probably,
Where Park Avenue is going to meet Montello Street, it's going to be the same except for new pavement, really.
so in likelihood, this is maybe it here.
Thank you.
so it's just gonna radius out on the old Montello Street.
Yeah,
As
the-
it radiuses out on Main Street.
Yeah, the radius coming out of Park Avenue onto Montello may be widened a little bit, but it's not going to really change other than, like I said, new pavement.
It'll be subject to review by the DPW and the town and everything.
Oh, yeah, I've been involved with it, yep. I've been going up there and, we have, weekly meetings and everything like that, so I've been very involved with it, yep. Yeah, I'm not going to let them, not pave it the correct way, because when I take it over, it's going to be me, so.
Right.
Can I, You have something here called a path that's going,
What are you calling it?
it's called a path.
A path?
It's right across the street from where the barricades are.
Oh, you know what, that might be the old path, like, I think dirt bikers used to go through there, and I think.
So
that's
it's not
where
an
they're going.
easement or
No,
anything
no,
like
no.
that?
That's actually, that's
Oh,
gone.
once they put the new roadway in, that was taken out of there anyways. So you don't have to worry about that.
All right.
So did that answer your question, John? That where Park Avenue is gonna meet Montello really, like I said, isn't gonna change. Maybe a little wider of an exit, but overall, it shouldn't really change much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I see the point, but
What, don't you see the point then?
putting in the road, I mean, it's, if you just go straight down, you have the exact same thing set up right down the street.
Yeah, this wasn't my idea. I was thrown in the middle of it, so I'm just trying to
Yeah.
pick up the pieces.
And I'm
And the
curious-
road's already there.
I'm
It's already been
curious, too,
cut in,
rather
so.
than just
Well,
a
I,
left
yeah, I
turn.
think the reason they did this, I mean, this was all engineered by the state, everything else, but so that it wouldn't interfere with, you wouldn't have tractor-trailer trucks cut through the hardware store.
Exactly.
And the center there, and Dunkin' Donuts, and all that traffic would be mixed. There's, it would be just a dedicated, well, it'd be an access to Montello Street, but it would be a better access for the trucks to go in and out that way.
The entrance to the plaza isn't gonna change right now.
Right, right. So right now, when the business park, if it does come about, the trucks will come through this new small section of road, but the old access on Montello Street will still service the plaza and plus Dunkin' Donuts too, so kind of breaks up the traffic that way. So if there aren't any more questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the layout of the new Montello Street.
I'll make said motion.
And I'll second that.
So we have a motion by Ellen, and second by Kevin. Okay, let's do a roll call vote because this is being videotaped, so
Cornelia Shea says aye.
John Gasky says nay.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Ellen Sodillo, aye.
Okay, so it's 4-1. So it's 4-1-0. All right, thank you, John.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next we have, let's see, that's. The next we have discussion with the RDA on the warrant articles. And I see Mr. Savory Moore is here with us tonight, along with,
Yeah, I'm here with Paul Costas, also from the Redevelopment Authority, and Mr. Stephen Cole, our former town planner, who is working as a consultant to the RDA on the North Carver project. So basically, what we're just here tonight to discuss is the two items that have to occur both before and at town meeting. The first one is the public hearing that has to happen with any kind of zoning bylaw changes. And we're here to try to find out if you have a date in mind of when the public hearing would be. Our hope is that it is earlier rather than later, because we have a feeling there are going to be a lot of questions on this project. And the more time we have between the public hearing and the town meeting vote, the more we're going to be able to answer these questions so that they don't need to be asked again at town meeting.
all right, how many articles are we looking at here? I have a printout of quite a few, and I just got these this afternoon, so.
Okay,
Haven't had time to go through them.
There are, I believe, 7 articles that pertain to the Green Business Park. These, I have a copy of your amendments here as well. It's the first 4. The fifth one is not regarding this project, and that is one to the moratorium on mounted solar photovoltaic installations. That is not part of this project. There is also in here a bylaw, a zoning bylaw sign amendment that is also not part of the project. And there is after that another article on a sign amendment in the Green Business Park that is part of this. And that's it. But it's the first 4, the 6th, the 7th, and the 9th on this printout.
So you say the first,
Yes.
the first 4,
Yeah, I can read them off quickly if you want. The
Okay.
first one is table of dimensional requirements, building height.
okay,
The second one is height of certain accessory structures.
okay,
The third one is access driveways, non-residential premises.
okay,
The next one is rezone from highway commercial to green business park.
okay,
The one after that is not applicable. The one after that is exemptions from large-scale ground-mounted solar voltaic installations.
okay,
The one after that is site plan review performance and parking lot lighting standards.
all right,
The one after that is the sign amendment, that is not applicable.
okay.
And the one right after that is, a lot of pages. Amend section, permitted signs for Green Business Park District, and that is it. Those are the amendments that are pertinent to the North Carver project.
I hate to do this to you. Could you repeat that, please?
Probably not. Yes. The first one is the building height.
Yeah.
Second one is height of accessory structures. That would be the water tower, actually. The third one is access driveways. The fourth one is rezoning a parcel from highway commercial to green business park. The fifth one is not applicable. The sixth one is exemption from large-scale ground-mounted solar voltaic installations. The next one after that is site plan review for parking lot lighting standards. The one after that is not applicable. And then the final one is the signage in a green business park.
So, site plan review, performance and parking lot light standards, is that,
Yes, that one, that's part of it.
Okay, so the zoning bylaw section, sign amendment is not?
Only the part for the green business park.
Oh,
Yeah, he's just speaking about,
I'm just speaking about the North Carver project that, and the amendments that are on this that pertain to it.
the sign amendment should be in this package. I haven't had
It
time to
is.
review it yet.
It is,
Yeah.
but right after the entire sign amendment package is the one for the
Right.
green business park. The second one is applicable, the first one is not. Or
Oh.
actually could be, but it's not part of this. I think that the amendment for the green business park is to adopt the sign amendment that precedes it for the green business park.
Now,
But
our
it's-
next meeting, I would think that we should have a separate meeting addressing, it'll probably take a couple of meetings to do all of them. But, I mean, just addressing what you pointed out tonight. I mean, I'm thinking that usually our meetings are on the second and the fourth Tuesdays of the month, but we might want to do this sooner.
Well, being a public hearing, it has to be advertised in the paper with all these things.
Right,
so
right.
we have to bear that in mind. We just want to try to get on your calendar as quickly as we can
Sure.
after all of the necessary advertisements have been done.
All right, the thing is, yeah, I was gonna look into this tomorrow morning.
Okay.
After the meeting, and we'll try to set something up for you right away. I just want to tell the members that our next meetings are going to be on February 8th and February 22nd, but I might try to do something like, if we can, and it all depends on when the rooms are available. I don't know if we could do like something the 15th. I don't know if this room would be available though, so maybe we could do something, I don't know, like the 16th and 17th. So that would be like a Wednesday and Thursday. I mean, would you need it any sooner than that?
No, I just want to make sure that, that you have that the proper advertising is done. I think that
Right.
for a public hearing, it has to appear in the paper 2 consecutive weeks.
Right. All right, let me, I'll talk to staff tomorrow.
Okay.
And we'll set this up. And I want to do all the bylaws at once, but we can, we can handle, we can do what you've presented us tonight, and then we can go through the list of the other ones that we have too.
Okay, that's fine. As I said, that there are a couple of bylaws that do not pertain to the North Carver project that are interspersed here. So when this finally comes to town meeting, I think all of the 7 that pertain to the Green Business Park should be in consecutive order,
I agree.
so that we can talk about it all at once. I understand now that they're all in each individual amendments. I don't know if there's a possibility or even a need to bundle them for one vote. I would say that the first article that's here, the building height, is probably going to be the one that is the most questioned.
Yeah.
And the others are sort of, while not unimportant, they're ancillary to the project as a
Right.
whole. So not only would we like to have all of them, we don't need them bundled together, but if we can do that, that might help.
No, I think that's an excellent idea.
We would also like to, when we do meet about this, discuss where in the order of articles being presented on the town warrant these go. Obviously, we would prefer to be closer to the beginning of the meeting than to the end. But I'm sure you would for your other articles as well.
Yeah.
I don't think we have,
Huh?
doesn't the select board sets that, I don't think we have a.
I understand that, but I think that they listen to recommendations.
Right, and I would recommend that they all be grouped together.
Yeah.
All right. Can you address the tables, the zoning tables? I mean, do zoning tables have to be changed?
We can do that administratively, and then we include it as part of the public hearings.
Okay.
Changes, yeah, it's
All right.
just a matter of changing the numbers.
Okay, the reference tables that are in the zoning bylaws have to reflect what goes here as well.
And that should be included in the warrant, yeah.
Yes. We would like to also, at town meeting, with the permission of not only the planning board, the planning board being because these are zoning amendments, the planning board is the body, the town body that presents this, or that proposes this. The redevelopment authority would like to take the role of being the presenter of this to-town meeting, because we've been involved in this project for 4 years, at least, some people even longer, but as it's come up to this point, we've been meeting, some of us have been meeting 3-4 times a week. We've been meeting with a working group that includes the select board or a member of select board and the new interim town administrator. We had a meeting this afternoon with all of the emergency management personnel, fire chief, police chief, EMS chief. So there's a lot going on, there's a lot of information, and Paul and myself and Stephen and the other members of the RDA are very well versed in where we stand with this, and we feel that we're probably a little better equipped to talk about this at town meeting. So,
Yes,
if that's agreeable.
that certainly is agreeable to me. I was thinking maybe we should see, when we have the discussion of these articles, we should see if we can maybe get the auditorium at the school or something.
For the public hearing?
Yeah, I think that we'll probably have a crowd of people. I think they'll, much more than we have at one of these meetings here. So I'll look into that, have the staff look into that tomorrow and see when we can book the school auditorium. And so we can do, you can do, and I'll see if we can do your articles first, and then we'll do the planning board articles afterwards.
Do you think it would be beneficial at the public hearing to have a joint meeting with the redevelopment authority? Or would you like to just have it as the planning board?
Yeah, yes, well, probably it would be a good
Okay.
thing, yeah.
All right.
Because there are gonna be a lot of questions, I would imagine, and that would be the best way to answer them. Yeah,
All
we
right.
could do that.
Very good. Is there anything I've forgotten? Or anything else that needs to be brought up that you're aware of? No? Are there any questions?
What's going in on, to this thing?
As of right now, the plan is 2 big buildings,
To house what?
a warehouse distribution center. If you're asking if there's a tenant, the answer is no. The zoning bylaw vote will determine the tenant.
So what are the options? Who, I mean,
Well, they're different.
you're saying that's gonna determine the tenant, then who's bidding?
Well, there are different tiers of tenants. There are tenants that are looking for a higher building so they can do more automation in the interior, and they're going to primarily be a larger national company that is most likely going to have a longer-term lease on the property. And then there's our lower tier that don't have the needs for the automated racking systems, and they can probably get away with a lower height building. So that's really what the zoning.
So we don't have anybody bidding yet?
Not at all. No, it's, we don't know what's going to be built, so that no one can bid on it.
Well, we'll talk more about this when we
Yes.
discuss the bylaw changes.
I'm sure we will.
So, tonight's meeting is just to discuss when we're gonna have the meeting, the public hearing for the bylaws.
Right, and
For the public
hopefully the
input.
order at
Yeah.
town meeting where we go.
Yep.
Okay,
So, I'll be in contact with you, and,
all right, or Sharon.
yeah, and tomorrow morning when I come in, we'll discuss the timelines we have to meet to advertise, and when we can get the
Great.
auditorium to use.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, thank
all.
you for being here.
Yep, you're welcome.
All right, next, we have a public hearing continuation. And it's on the application of JCM Carver Acquisitions LLC requesting a special permit for, this is for fast food, a drive-in restaurant and site plan review pursuant to sections 2200 and 2300 and 2330, 3100 and 4300 and 5300. And it's the existing Erickson's Ice Cream on 287 Tremont Street. So the planning board has gone out We have done a site walk, and we have also closed the public hearing. And so I think what we were waiting for now, there were some minor revisions done to the plans, and I spoke to Andy Glines of Fuss and O'Neill this afternoon, and he said he was satisfied with everything. So we do have the conditions, and has been reviewed by Amy Questle from KP Law, the town's lawyers. And so let me just go through. Let me see. So the conditions, so let me go through the waivers. I think we did this the last time, but we'll go through waivers requested from the requirement to provide interior parking lot landscaping due to the short, less than 180 feet end-to-end distance of the parking lot. Each row of parking is 6 spaces or less. However, the applicant will install a landscape island to the northeast of the retail store to further define the separation from the retail and tradesman parking lots. And this waiver, okay. And then we have another waiver, as we requested from the requirements to provide a 25-foot parking lot perimeter landscape buffer, which is required for parking lots with 25 or more parking spaces. A 25-foot wide landscape buffer is provided for the majority of the parking lot, but a 100-foot section abutting the northern property line has a 10-foot landscape buffer consisting of lawn and trees. This portion of the parking lot only contains 6 spaces of the total 29 spaces proposed, and abuts a currently undeveloped woodland area. And the next waiver is requested from the requirement to create a 10-foot wide landscape buffer along the building and sideline due to substantial open site development restrictions imposed to protect the well radius of 100 feet and stormwater improvements. Furthermore, side and rear adjacent properties contain extensive wetland resource areas, natural buffers, and agricultural uses. No residential uses abut the site. Okay, so the board voted January 25th, 2022 to approve the special permit and site plan review so that would be today. So the conditions, the project shall be constructed as approved in the site plan and decision. Any other revisions will require approval from the board as modifications of this decision. The applicant is responsible for the proper operation and maintenance of the site. During construction, sedimentation and soil erosion controls shall be installed, repaired, and supplemented as needed. Dust control is required during construction, and the roadway apron is to be kept swept and clear of any dust, dirt, and debris. The applicant shall adhere to the conditions outlined in the Carver Fire Department comment letter dated November 8th, 2021. 4, prior to the issuance of a certificate of use and occupancy, any outstanding balance of the review and inspection deposit account shall be paid. B, as-built plans shall be submitted to the town's engineer and planning department in both electronic and hard copy form prior to the final inspection, and in accordance with section 3180 compliance of the Carver zoning bylaws, the town's engineer shall inspect the project to ensure that it has been completed in compliance with the approved site plan and its conditions. 5, the applicant shall install a 4-foot-high black vinyl fence. The bottom 1 foot of the fence will have critter fencing with large enough openings to allow for the passage of small wildlife. No trespassing signage will be affixed along the north and south property lines on the fence. No trespassing signs shall be posted at 50-foot intervals along the north sideline affixed to post. 6, the 2 mature holly trees located in the center of the property shall be transplanted in shaded areas if their current location cannot be preserved. If the trees cannot be transplanted, 2 new holly trees will be planted on site in a shaded area. 7, the applicant shall submit a sign permit application for the planning board to issue a sign permit prior to ordering singular freestanding sign not to exceed 10 feet in height or 10 square feet in area. 8, the proposed tradesman bays shall only be allowed to store household quantities of fuel or fluids necessary to the business. 9, outdoor storage of trucks or overnight outdoor parking of any vehicle on site is prohibited. Truck parking is restricted to deliveries, loading, and unloading operations, and daytime parking associated with the tradesman's use. 10, a seasonal vermin control program and contract shall be required for the site while the ice cream shop is open. In addition, an annual maintenance contract shall be established and proof providing to the planning board and Board of Health. The stormwater, 11, the stormwater management system shall be maintained as prescribed in the long-term pollution prevention plan. 12, the water withdrawal rate for the site shall comply with DEP's non-transit community water supply issued under PWS ID number 4052008. The water withdrawal rate shall not exceed 1,000 gallons per day with a pumping limit of 999 gallons per day. In the event of tenancy changes, the owner shall notify inspectional services planning and the Board of Health of any such changes. Any appeal of this decision must be filed pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 117, and shall be filed within 20 days of the filing of this decision with the town clerk. All right, so, any comments? And this was the latest one that you had looked at, Amy?
It is, although I missed something, I'm sorry. It's what you just said. It should be MGL Chapter 48, Section 17, not 117.
Okay, so it's gonna be, it has to be on a signature page too.
On all the other ones, I think the town clerk just marks it out. Just X it out. X
So,
out the first one.
so we're gonna take out, so it's Mass General Law 40A?
Chapter 40A, that's fine. It says Section 117, it should only say Section 17. So just
Okay.
X out the first one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It should be filed, okay.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
All right.
And I thought tenancy changes had to be approved through inspectional services.
That was, it says, in the event of tenancy changes, the owner shall notify inspectional services, planning, and the Board of Health of any such changes, which was number 13.
Right, I thought it was, I thought it was about being approved through inspectional services. Not, I mean, notifying us is great, but order
I
so that
did,
it
I
stayed-
did speak to the building commissioner, and he said, once the buildings are up and built, and he does the final inspection, that's all he does. They don't go from tenant to tenant, so that's something that,
well, who's to
we look
say?
into the bylaws and, if you want to change that eventually, but it doesn't happen now. I did ask him about that.
Okay. Because who's to say what's a tradesman building or not? I mean, if something moves in there that's
Well, that
auto
requires,
shop or,
yeah, well, there is a definition of craftsman tradesman, but that's when the building's built. I don't know who keeps track of the tenants. I mean, at least this will make them notify town hall anyway. And that's the best you can do right now unless we have a bylaw change. All right, anything else? All right, so we already closed the public hearing, so entertain a motion to approve the special permit and site plan review with the conditions as noted.
I'll make that said motion.
And I'll second that.
Okay, so a motion was made by Kevin Robinson, second by Ellen. Okay, let's do roll call vote for the, so, Mr. Shea,
Cornelia Shea says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye?
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Ellen Sodillo, aye.
Okay, so that was 5-0. All right, so let's I'll pass this around.
Are we going to correct it, or are they just X out?
Just gonna X out.
I'm gonna have to change the form, it's on every single decision,
Okay.
so, and I remembered, and then
I remember you've mentioned
Yeah,
it before,
right,
and
I
it
have
escaped
mentioned it
me
before,
too,
and I
yeah.
completely forgot to
In the
fix
car.
it, so it was my fault.
It's a group effort here, Andy.
Thanks. All right, so the next is, so that was, that took care of the, oh, okay, so that was the first public hearing continuation. The second is the, on the application of Richard D. Benedictus, P.E., requesting a special permit and site plan review pursuant to sections 2230, 5300, and 3100 of the Carver zoning bylaw. And this project's located at 20 Shoestring Road in Carver. The project is the improvements to Jellystone Park, which includes a centralized wastewater treatment facility and a new set of water supply wells and improved roadway access located in a residential agricultural district. So, good evening, Mr. De Benedictus. We, I guess I'll just say that we did go, I think all the planning board members eventually did go and do a site walk there. So, and it was explained to us, you know, what was happening out there. We did look at plans there. And so, in the discussion, I had found that Shoestring Road was a public road, and it ended at the gate at the park. And then from there it went on, and it's a private driveway, or private roadway. So I just thought I think I spoke to all the members out there when we were there. So if you have anything more that you would like to add tonight?
Not necessarily. Dick Benedictus with Webby Engineering. I brought the plans only if anybody has a question, I can, show them on the plan, hopefully responding to their questions. But we had some minor changes on the plan. We added some water shut-off gates, which we promised to do at the last hearing. And we added a few more labels having to do with the water distribution system. So basically, it's pretty much the same plan. I sent out emails of the plan to Chairman Mackey, to Andy Lines, and to a few other people who are involved. So I'll just open it up to any questions that somebody might have.
All right, I think when we did go there, I did look at this package that you sent us this afternoon, and it was everything that some of the members had requested. It seems like you have, from other parks, you have photographs of what the water park would approximately look like. There were some other pictures that were in here, and of the types of buildings that you were gonna put out there. One was, I see a hot dog stand, and you have a,
I think that's supposed to end up being the check-in.
Oh, check-in, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
okay.
it. Yeah, I think that's just, the hot dog stand is just an
Oh, okay.
overall look, that's what the building's gonna look like.
That's right, we did discuss a check-in area. And then we, as we go further through the package, it shows what some of the sites look like. This is some of the motorized homes and how there'd be parking for a car there and oh, that's a golf cart. And then also, I know some members asked what the log cabin-style homes that were gonna be built out there, the modular homes, and so there are pictures of a typical modular log cabin home with tin roof. Really looks nice. All wood interiors and the different rooms inside, that would be for rent. And then the next page shows what the interior would look like, along with decks outside. And then we have elevations of, and dimensions of the exterior of the building. Also, there was a traffic study involved, and I know that I spoke to my friends who have a place down the Cape, and their park was a little bit bigger, it's in Mashpee. There wasn't much traffic going in and out, it seems like, people come, they rent for a week or all summer usually. They bring their motor home, they stay there, so there's just a one-car traffic going from site to site. But the guard house at this place is just a couple 100 feet off the street, but every time I went there, there wasn't any kind of a backup, even on the busiest times on Saturdays. Everybody seemed to be within the park, so this park is kind of isolated. It's out in the woods. Shoestring Road has got to be a quarter of a mile to a half mile long, so there's plenty of place for traffic to park and, or to stop if they had to register to go in. But I think there was some turnoff areas that you're gonna have for people coming in with their vehicles and to register or whatever they have to do to get into the park. So I don't really see any problems traffic-wise with this myself. And I think this park is just good for Carver. It's out of the way. It's within a bog setting. There's a reservoir on one side. There's a small pond on the property. And not only will it be good for the people that own the park to have something like this, but it's good for Carver and it's good for, Carver businesses too. So, having said that, we don't have a decision ready for this. I just wanted to know, and so I don't know what we plan on doing. We still don't have a planner. We have been on some of our projects, had the applicant's attorneys draft up a decision, and then it's reviewed by KP Law, and also looked at by Andy Glines of Fuss & O'Neill. So if that could be arranged, that would be good. Having said that, I'll let anybody on the board have any questions or concerns?
Have we received copies of any easements in regards to the Cranberry owners and 32 Shoestring Road?
I think that's on the plan of land documents.
Pardon?
I'm sorry, Rob Krause.
Oh, yeah, speak into the mic, Ralph.
I believe that was on the plan of land, all the easements were listed on there, were listed, Shoestring as private.
Okay, right.
I did have a gentleman come into the meeting early just before 7 o'clock, and I don't know if you had any questions. I think you may have owned the land or been associated with the land. If you could use that microphone right there and speak into it, and we'll see if we can get your questions answered.
Walter Morrison, trustee at Federal Furnace Cranbrook.
You could pull up a chair there, so you,
No, it's very brief.
okay.
I guess it's more a question to you than to these gentlemen, and that is that I was unaware that Shoestring Road was already acquired by the town and a public road due to prior history that was given to me by Gary Weston. And that was, if we go back in history a little bit, if we all remember the fiasco that happened in Miles Standish State Forest when one of the dams by one of the cranberry growers in there let loose, and then there was a fracas between the state and the cranberry grower as to whose responsibility it was for the dam there and the road that went over it. And subsequently, after that, the state then said, well, we're inspecting all the dams everywhere. And at that time, since that is part of Federal's land down there, and they did control that, quote, at the time, dam, and so Gary took out the facility that was there that would enable it to be dammed up, and then made it a flow-through culvert, so that no water could be dammed, so therefore the state then backed off and said, nope, it's no longer a dam. Gary had led me to believe that we owned the center of that road, but you're now telling me that's incorrect, that it's a town road.
It's listed in the index of town roads in
Okay.
Carver.
That's fine.
Yeah, and it might be that you would own to the center of the private road. But I don't know, unless the private road just goes through a piece of property. I mean, sometimes you have a private road and you have an owner on one side and an owner on the other. So
Correct.
they own to the center of the road.
If you go to the current town assessor's maps, there is a piece of property on the opposite side of Shoestring Road that abuts that reservoir there. It's roughly 0.9 of an acre. And it says owner unknown. That same part, so that parcel and Federal's both met in the middle. There was a study done, probably 25 years ago by Ben Gilmore. And this was working in an engineering firm. And this was delineating the boundaries of Federal Furnace Cranberry. And they stopped, should we say, spending any more money, and more research would have been needed to determine the ownership of that lot of land. It's the only reason why I'm questioning the ownership of the road, but if you're saying it's the town's, that's great, that means you're responsible. And the only reason for wanting to know who's responsible is if, I'm sure the board drove down there, and when you drive across that, the question is, whose responsibility is it for guardrails going along the top of the dam?
Well, there's no dam anymore, right?
Right, but it's a road, and you're right, I called it a dam because that's what it formerly was,
Right.
but it's no longer a dam. But that road sits on top of, we'll call it a mound, with each side supported by large granite blocks.
Well,
But if you're saying it's a town's, that's
Yes,
great, and
it's a-
these people
it's a
aren't
town-
responsible for it, and that's great.
I did talk to John Woods, the DPW director, and he gave us the list of town roads that was on it. He says that the town has been maintaining and plowing that road now for several years, so, and it had been accepted by the town, so that's
Roughly-
all I know.
Roughly up to,
It's up to the gate.
The gate.
The gate,
Yeah,
that's
and
what he
this
said.
is well before that. This is
Okay.
right up at the beginning, and it's right where
Oh,
that Crane Brook passes underneath, and it's more, and the only reason why I'm speaking for Federal Furnace is more is a liability situation. We don't want to be responsible if someone drives off the edge of the road
Okay.
and they're looking for someone to sue. We don't want to be responsible for it.
Right. No, it's a public road, so you don't have to worry about that. All right, any,
I do. I just want to make sure that this is a two-phase project, correct?
Correct.
And we're only concerning ourselves with, well, the overall subject, but phase one at this point, correct? We're not approving both phases at the same time? Water park and,
Well, let me explain the sequence of construction.
make sure you speak into the
Yeah, the
microphone.
sequence of construction is the phase one, which is shown on this, it's shown in this area here, needs to be open on April 15th. But right after it's open, some of the work that doesn't interfere with this phase one will be done in phase two. In fact, some of the work will be done for phase one, and that we have to bring water lines down and all that, that won't actually, it's kind of complicated, but we have to get approval of our well water system, which is in the northern part here. So when that gets approved, we're probably going to be doing some water lines coming down. Well, phase one is still operating, but otherwise, phase two is to be operating next year. But we have to build it between now and then, so there might be some operation going there. So we were looking for the entire plan to be approved, since it's basically the same technology throughout it, as far as the water lines and the sewer lines. Those are all kind of interactive. So if we only did phase one and then we'd be stopped on bringing in the sewer and the water into phase one, that would be a problem.
right.
So we really want the entire site. I believe Mr. Kraus, Rob Kraus is representing the owners.
Yes, part of the phase one construction out here would be the wells, wastewater treatment plant, and to get the water from the wells, we'd be coming around the backside here. There are some existing campsites right here being used. We would work on the backside, bringing that around. Next fall, after the park shuts down, we would come back in and do this remodeling here. And also be the water park in here. We can't do the water park until the new well system is online, because there's a well in the water park area now that we decommissioned.
Now, have you been to the Concom in regards to the water park at all, and seeking approval through them, and get an ANOI through them? It looks
do-
like some of it's gonna be within the 100-foot zone.
We have an approval from the Conservation Commission as of January 19th. We're waiting just to pick up the order of conditions. But the water park was set aside as something we can bring in, once the architects have completed the design. So they left that part open for that, but it will probably be approved within the next month or so, for future.
anything else?
Is this water park just for the campers only? It's not gonna be open to the public, right?
If there aren't any other questions right now from the board members, this is a public hearing, and I'm just wondering if there's anybody else sitting in the audience that has any questions or concerns. I did talk to somebody, it was Federal Furnace Cranberry, last week, and they were concerned, and I think, I gave him your name and his name and telephone number, and he was concerned about the access from the gate, and that there is a building out back, I believe, that they use for cranberry storage or whatever.
Curtis Young.
Yeah, Curtis Young.
Farm manager Curtis Young has his own logs behind you.
Yeah, we saw him.
So we just want to make sure that the cranberry growers do have access, even if the gate, I don't know if we can bypass the gate for the cranberry growers or
Yeah, I believe
whatever.
People have access, whoever has an easement through there has access to the gate to open it up.
Oh, okay, oh,
With
we
like
could
a
do
cart
that.
or something like that, they can get through there.
Okay, all right.
The only other thing I'd like to add, well, first of all, Mr. Kraus can commit to the question you had about preparing the a decision with his own attorney, so he can answer that.
Yeah, we have general counsel that will draw up that.
Okay.
Okay.
And if you could send it off to KP Law, Amy Questle, and if you could send it off to Andy Glines.
Right.
I don't know, would you be handling this, or,
Sure, if he can send it to Michelle, she can get it to us.
okay.
Does that make more sense?
Oh, send it to Michelle,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, you could send it to Michelle, and then Michelle could send it to Andy and to Amy.
And one other consideration, since the decision can't be made tonight because we have a few more items to hear from Andy, for one thing.
Oh, I did talk to Andy tonight before I came to Town Hall, and Andy said that he just reviewed some new documents that were sent by people this afternoon.
The Stormwater Plan was one of
Yeah.
them that he asked for in the last hearing.
So he
And also-
said,
yeah.
yeah, so he said that either he could come to the meeting tonight, or he could stay late at work and try to get that done.
Okay,
So he said, I'll actually be working on this project even if I'm not there. So he decided that we looked at the agenda and we decided that it'd be better if he looked at it. And so hopefully we could wrap this up at our next meeting,
right.
which
Well,
would be January 11th.
No.
Oh, February, we're
February 8th,
gonna
I
get
think.
to the right month, the
Yeah.
8th.
Right.
Yeah, February 8th.
Well, there's just one item going along with that. You know, we have equipment out there, you know, building this thing. And part of the application was to add this little section down here, which is just a couple of roads. We'd like to continue to work that area. As you saw when you were out in the field, it hasn't been cleared yet. We'd like to be able to clear that and just grade those roads in there. And there might be one or two manholes or something. But I believe that's really all settled as far as the whole package. So if we could continue to do that prior to, or during the time we're waiting for the next hearing, it would be very helpful.
Well, Andy told me that he's reviewed most of the plans of the park and everything else, and stormwater drainage and all that, and he was good with everything.
Okay.
But it was just those final documents that
Right.
he said tonight. He and I talked, and we felt we could probably, if there aren't any questions from the public, we could close the public hearing tonight, and then have a decision written for our next meeting, and then we could do the site plan approval and special permit vote at our next meeting with the decision.
That would be very helpful if we could do that.
Maybe we could refer to Attorney Questle in regards to the last question. Could you just repeat what you said in regards to?
Sure.
Doing work.
Yeah, well,
doing work without-
this application includes the expansion areas, this and that one. It's a special permit and a site plan review. And I believe Andy's reviewed this, but he might have additional comments.
So then
which-
we shouldn't close it.
Shouldn't, okay, so we don't have to.
Additional information will come in.
Okay.
And he wants to know if
Yeah.
you can work
Yeah,
that
if we could just
area.
clear, we haven't cleared this,
Earth removal.
the board has been out there and they saw that this area hasn't been cleared, and we just don't want to stop construction waiting for a hearing. If we could just clear the site and grade these two roads that we're adding down the bottom, they're just gravel, stone and gravel roads, there's no pavement or anything like that. But otherwise, we have to stop, construction, waiting for the final
Why are you doing
decision.
construction in any event?
Excuse me?
This is an existing campground, right?
This is, this is all,
Those
this is
are
all
already
under
lots there.
construction.
Okay.
That was agreed to early on.
This part would be an expansion part right here, we haven't touched that yet.
Oh,
Well,
no,
there's-
well, you can't expand without going to site plan, without getting a site plan approval, so you wouldn't be able to do it until the decision is issued and 20 days have passed.
Right, and there's been a lot of earth removal going on at that site, so although it was existing, it's been modified quite a bit.
Well, the modification was to make it more engineering and construction and usable.
Oh, no, I
Yeah, right.
understand.
Yeah, you were out there, right? Right, it's just that we don't want to be stopped cold right there as we're trying to get this thing, we are on a very tight schedule. That's why, when we were told there wasn't going to be a decision tonight, we felt we have to at least ask, for that
Right.
capability without, we
Well, how-
won't be putting water or sewer in there, we'd just be basically grading and clearing the
Well,
site.
how far of a grade have you brought it down at this point?
Well, the entire site has been brought to a 2 to 3% slope, where it was undulating all over the place, and there was a lot of erosion on the roads. And to try to deal with the stormwater plan, and that's one of the reasons we slowed down on that, waiting to see what it would look like. Now that it's relatively shallow, most of the stormwater plan, and this was worked with Andy in discussion, most of the stormwater plan is very limited, a limited impact. It's because the water's gonna pretty much stay there, so we're putting crushed stone on the top surface so that it's gonna take in the water. There's gonna be very little water flowing down that street now, where before it was eroding
Right,
and
but
causing a problem.
I remember we were out and looking at the site there, and there were a lot of trucks coming in and out, and we had spoken about the earth removal permits, and you said you had gotten permission.
Well, I believe Rob
We had
talked.
talked to ERC already, and we've only moved out 5,000 yards on that, so we're still, some of that dirt's gonna get back, moved around the site, moved around yet.
But a considerable amount of dirt has been moved around on that site.
Some of the hills have been taken out and
Right.
allowed us to make a gradual slope.
Andy mentioned that to me and said that, some work had been done. I know when I had gone on a walk through the park with the building inspector and the Board of Health, and there was a lot of deteriorating retaining walls and things like that from where the campers were parked on the side of the roads out there. So they had asked us if it would be all right to clean that stuff up, and we didn't see any problem with that at the time. So since then, Andy's gone out there, and I think he's looked at the site, and he said there was some clearing out there, but he didn't think that it was detrimental to anything, so. And like I said, he's already looked at the plans and gone through everything and has approved, but I don't know what, so,
I guess the issue is they would be expanding.
yeah.
That's the problem,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Well, we are permitted for 260 sites right now, we operate 212. This little area right here would bring us to 241, I believe.
You're permitted, and where's the decision that says that? What plan shows it? Does it show that area?
Just our campground
Oh,
permit that we
yeah.
have, we're permitted to operate 260
Yeah,
sites.
so that's different. It's a different permit, unfortunately. It's not up to me, though. It's up to the board, but,
I mean, the big issue here is the campground shut down October 17th. It has to open up April 15th in order to be financially viable for the next year. So we're squeezing everything down. We're before the DEP with 2 major permits, water wells and a wastewater treatment plant. As part of this cleaning up of the site, there's septic systems there that have to be removed. There was a lot of water lines that were just added ad hoc as it was a family-owned campground, and they strung, lines from different wells
so
to,
perhaps do other work that doesn't include expansion.
excuse me, say it again?
Do other work that doesn't include the expansion. So work on the existing sites, but you can't start expanding without a permit allowing you to expand.
Right, and that's what we're hoping for tonight.
Right,
But now we're 2 weeks
Right.
into it, which makes April 15th a little tougher. But that's all right, we'll handle it.
yeah.
Okay, so we'll see you at our next meeting. So let's continue this public hearing on the application for Jellystone Park. And let's schedule, I'd like to hear a motion to schedule the next meeting on February 8th at 7 o'clock.
Cornelia Shea makes a motion to extend the Jellystone Park public hearing to February 8th, 2022.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so Mr. Shea made the motion, Kevin Robinson second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's take a vote.
Cornelia Shea says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Ellen Sordillo, aye.
Okay, so it's 5-0 to continue the meeting to February 8th. All right, thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, so we have some new public hearings to go through tonight. And the first is, let me read the public hearing notice. In accordance with the provisions of the Town of Carver zoning bylaw, the Carver Planning Board will hold a public hearing on January 25th, 2022 at 7 PM in the Carver Town Hall, Meeting Room 1, on the application of Carrie Galbraith requesting a special permit pursuant to sections 5300, 2230, and 2230 of the Carver zoning bylaw, located at 72 North Main Street in Carver, Mass., which is Assessors Map 18-12-2-R, to operate a dog daycare in a general business district. Any person interested in wishing to be heard should appear at the time and place designated. A copy of the plan is on file at the Planning Department and may be reviewed during normal business hours. Carver Planning Board, Bruce Mackey, Chair. Carver Reporter, published dates January 7th and January 14th, 2022. So, good evening. If somebody could come up and... So I did read through the packet here, and let me see, so we have a detailed description of operations here, so I guess we could just review that's in the packet. There's gonna be a 6-foot chain link fencing from the loading dock, the right side of the building, back approximately 125 feet beyond the wood line at the back of the building. The fencing will stop approximately 100 feet from the back property line, then return to connect the back of the building. And this says that you're gonna hang sound dampening materials on the fence, covered by wide screens for aesthetic and privacy purposes along the fencing. So you're gonna use synthetic turf in the area immediately adjacent to the building. It's gonna be disinfected and sanitized multiple times a day with Audubon, as it is pet and human safe. We're gonna have a walking dumpster for all waste that will be emptied weekly. And pickup could be adjusted to twice a week. And interior of the building will have removable partitions to adjust the play areas for the dogs. You're gonna have a boarding area, will be towards the back, and we'll have kennels for the dogs to sleep in. We will not house more than one dog in a kennel, as our experience has shown us that even though it is extremely rare, there is potential for fights. All pickup and drop-offs of dogs will occur through the front door, and all dogs will be leashed. We will keep all leashes, so the dog will be wearing it anytime they are in the parking lot. Hours of operation will be between 6 in the morning and 7 in the, at night, Monday through Friday, and 8 AM to 5 PM on Saturday and Sunday, depending on clients. The building will have surveillance cameras and off-site accessibility, and a professionally installed monitored alarm. So also in this application, there was, let me see. Okay, so I guess that's it. I thought I had seen some other information that might be here, I just overlook it. But I'll let you speak now. I just wanted to give the planning board members and the audience just to show them what, tell them about what's in your packet that you had to fill out.
I'm really not sure what to say. I've never done this before.
Well, if you could give us your name and address, please.
I'm Carrie Galbraith. This is actually my business partner, Leanne Schultz. We, with us, and we have a couple of staff here as well who will be working with us. Between all of us, we have each 6 or more years of running and working in a daycare facility. I actually ran one, administratively worked the floor. We all have certifications. We actually just Saturday, the 4 of us got CPR, first aid certified for pets. It's a 2-year certification. Our goal, I guess, our main goal is really to kind of help. There's a huge need for it right now. There are a lot of COVID puppies out there. And the facility that we worked in, none of us were really happy with the way things went over there in regards to just the amount of dogs, safety issues, stuff like that. And we've all kind of sort of come together and said, we don't want to run it like that. The main goal is really to allow the dogs to just be a dog. We have play equipment for them to climb on, slides, tunnels, toys. Things will be used inside, things will be used outside. Generally, they tend to not be super loud if they're busy, which is, really I kind of think is one of the biggest concerns is noise. And I think using the dampening panels, you can purchase those, the sound dampening on a chain link fence. I think that will help cut it down. The way the building is set up right now, it's going to be like a rotation, meaning there'll probably not be any more than 15 to 20 dogs outside of the building at a time. Well, probably 15 because our goal is to do the general. I know in Carver there's not a lot of regulations in, people to dog numbers. Generally, though, I think across the industry, it's kind of given somewhere between 10 and 15 dogs per person. Our ultimate number, our ideal would be 12 dogs per person. We would go up to 15 if necessary. Space-wise, Bob at some point is intending on retiring, and then we'll actually take over the whole entire building. However, we don't intend on ever having more than 75 dogs in the building, ever at a time. Not overnight, though. Overnight, I'd like to have maybe 20, 25. We will have an overnight staff. I'm not super comfortable leaving them in the building alone either.
All right, wow. Under the definitions of a commercial kennel shall mean a single premise with a collection of 11 or more dogs, 3 months or older, that are maintained for any purpose, or where 4 or more litters per year are raised, and where the boarding or grooming of dogs is performed as a business. And then, so, under your summary here, you have, Home Pack Pups LLC provides dog daycare. So you're gonna do dog daycare, and you're gonna do boarding, and you say you're gonna have training and bath services.
Yeah, not grooming though. More like an exit bath. Sometimes, there are dogs who, they'll go outside, and if you don't pick up the poop fast enough, they will roll in it in a heartbeat. So those dogs will get a bath before they go home.
All right, that's a lot of dogs. We've never had seen anything that big. We just did a doggy daycare in South Carver. They had, I don't know, what do we have? Ended up with maybe 12 or 15 dogs maximum.
What was the square footage, though? So the goal is, again, the facility that we worked in was, the way that it was set up through the town is one handler to 15 dogs. For every interior space, we had to have, it was 25 square feet per dog. So at 2,400 square feet interior space, it was actually
Right.
allowed 96 dogs.
Wow.
That is not even close what we're looking for. Again, once Bob retires, so when I say that number, I'm not looking at that number until really the whole entire building is accessible to us, which in total is 9,000 square feet.
See, our bylaw isn't like that. And, I don't know, that's a lot of dogs. I don't know what the other planning, just kick it around the planning board to see how they feel about that.
So most of the commercial kennels in the area do have, they're upwards of that number. I understand Carver doesn't have that, but Kingston, Pembroke, Plymouth, Marshfield, Duxbury doesn't have any, well, they have like a kennel in the Pines. But the Middleborough, really the general town areas do have them at that size. I mean, we don't have to be that big. It was honestly a matter of trying to figure out what our break-even number was going to be between rent, staffing, insurance, just our monthly budget.
When you're talking, about 15-to-1 ratio, are you talking about one person for 15 dogs running around?
In one space, yes, but only in one space.
Oh, so 15 dogs running around here, and I'm the one person watching. They're not in kennels, they're all in one open space?
They're playing, yep.
That's 375 square feet for one person. So one person is going to maintain 375 square feet of area for a dog to play in?
What happens if the dogs start fighting and it gets serious?
Well, so that's kind of sort of the way we're looking at our setup is with our partitions are all going to be movable, and they're all going to have doors in them. And in all honesty, they're 5 feet. We've all climbed them. We've all jumped over them. Unfortunately, dogs can fight. That's just what dogs can do. We generally, in the years that we worked together, there were very few of them. And when they do happen, we're all experienced enough to really, you get in and you move the dogs, and the one that caused the problem, you take off the floor, meaning you move them to another part of the building, into a kennel. One of the things that we did talk about was making sure that we did have quote-unquote timeout kennels in each section, which is really just a crated area where if you have a dog that has too much energy, you put them in that area. Again, when you have dogs playing, they can play, but you can also interrupt that play. So if you have two dogs and they're getting like really energetic out there, and I wish, I wish I had a video or something to show you. So you have two dogs that are playing really hard, and another dog says, oh no, it's too much. And they'll walk right through the middle of it. Well, us as humans, that's what we've been trained to do. The same thing, is you kind of bring that energy down. You walk in between them, use spatial pressure. They sit down, they look up at you. It's like a toddler, just, thank you. And it just kind of breaks them up, and they go, okay. And it's like, okay, everybody shake it off, and then they can go back to play. We don't let them run around like crazy, like toddlers and insane, and they're barking and they're all over the place. It's not that type of play, I guess.
Well, I've never seen, unfortunately, our bylaws don't address something this big. Not to say that it couldn't be done, but we just don't have a bylaw for that amount of dogs.
Okay.
Generally, I mean, what we've seen, we've had a couple of doggy daycares, and they were no more than about a dozen dogs a day. They were run out of people's private homes, and they had fenced in part of their yard for the dogs. The dogs were supposed to be quiet and not bark. This last one that we just did in South Carver, the lady had people watching the dogs to see if they would bark. They had different preventative ways for the 6 or 8 or 10 dogs that they had out there. Some would be inside the home, some would be out in the pens. They talked about barking collars that they put on the dogs.
e-collars.
In different ways to prevent the dogs from barking, because the neighbors were concerned about the noise, but that took a long time to get through the planning board here. There was a lot of discussion just on a dozen dogs. So,
There was also only one person that was managing them.
yeah,
Right, but she didn't have control of all 12 dogs at once. They were kenneled, or they were outside in a pen, or they was.
Yeah.
right.
But I think one of the important things that,
Can I also say something about her? She also sends 2 of her own personal dogs to the facility that I ran. So, but again, I understand she runs it out of her home. We all have professional experience along with, we've all been through relationship-based certification programs. We have all been taught dog body language, our continuing education, with that we intend to continue on. As far as the barking goes, we're not opposed to using things. However, in all honesty, I'd rather just bring them in the building. If you have a barking dog, generally there's something with the dog, meaning they're bored, they're overexcited, they've been allowed to get high energy. That they're not being focused on. So I have 3 dogs at my house, and I get it's only 3, I understand that. However, I have 3 dogs at my house, and if one barks, I just come on in the house, and that's it. And we have no problem doing that either. You know, generally, if you have an entire pack of dogs barking, we're doing something wrong. But we have the experience to not get into that type of a situation.
There's one facility that I've done a lot of work around, and it's a building similar to what you have. It's in Hingham, down by the old Hingham shipyard. And the dogs, I was just outside the building, and all you could hear was dogs barking. That's all you could hear.
Was that Fox and Hounds?
I don't know, it's off of, yeah, it's across the street
It's
from
Fox and
the
Hounds.
Hingham Shipyard. It's not directly across the street, but it's off an adjacent street. And it's a big building, it's a brick building. And I just couldn't believe the noise from all those dogs barking in there. It was just nuts. It's a industrial commercial park that they're in. So it doesn't disturb any residents around there.
Understood.
But here, with this, we do have residents, I mean, it is a commercial area, or I think it's GB. Or, yeah, zoned, which is permitted for this type of activity, but like I say, I'm just concerned about that many dogs.
There's not a way that, I don't know how to prove to you, other than to give you the name of my facility that I used to work at, and you can go there, you can stand outside that parking lot, and you will never hear a dog. I could bring in old clients who could walk in here and tell you the same thing, that they would sit in my office and never hear a dog, and there could be 80 dogs on the other side of the wall. Again, it's not, it comes down to our body language, how we approach a dog, how we treat a dog, how we respect a dog. When I interview people, really one of the things I say is, be prepared, because a dog is an animal first. So if we don't walk into a situation thinking that the dog is an animal and we think, oh, they're super cute and we're gonna go in there and we're gonna talk all high-pitched, all of those things really do bring up the dog energy. So anybody who works with us or for us has to understand that when you walk into a room with a dog, you walk in and you're like, hey, I'm confident, I can do this, come see me. Leanne's seen it. Again, I wish I had some video. One of my dogs loves to bark out the window, but if I stand in front of that window and I just go like this, he stops, because he's like, oh, my mother's watching me. Because if I have to go in the house and I gotta take him away from the window, he wants to look out the window. Again, it's closer to, so a dog tends to, in research and what we've learned is that they age out like a toddler, so they'll age out somewhere between a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, which means they do have memory. They can learn, they can understand, and they do, to a certain extent, understand what you're saying to them. It's not necessarily just sounds. So if you have an entire room, there's a program called Dog Gurus that actually we're gonna work on, right? We're gonna go through that as all new trainees. And part of it is, one of the things that you literally practice is a downstay with an entire room of dogs. So you take 10 dogs, and they all do a downstay. Well, if you're in a downstay, a dog can't do 2 things at once. So their brain can't be over here paying attention to what I'm doing, and then over here barking at the same time. It's just, that's not what they do. They don't work that way.
Since we were fortunate enough to have Amy Questle, I don't know if you have anything to say. I mean, it's just, our bylaws just are kind of unable to handle this amount of dogs. I mean, that's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you feel about this, or what your experience has been with something like this.
No, I have 2 dogs. I love dogs. My dogs are not smart, though. I don't know how, my dogs would never be able to do that eye thing.
I bet they could, though.
Well, no, I don't. My dog got stuck in one of those tunnels. He's not very smart. Those little plastic tunnels.
My dog runs into the house,
yeah.
literally. She's not very bright either, but she
So-
doesn't bark.
But there is an issue, which is the definitions. I don't see how you can, I just don't see how you can get up to that many dogs. Unfortunately, the definition doesn't have, it doesn't allow a certain amount of dogs per square feet, or even per zoning district. You could have more dogs in an industrial district rather than residential, something like that. It's also unclear where it says that, basically you can have 11 or more dogs, 3 months or older. So there doesn't seem to be a limit. And so what this is going to come down to is it's going to come down to a discretionary decision by the planning board. Because you just don't have firm numbers as to where you can go. You know, there's nothing that says there's a limit of dogs,
Right.
there's nothing that says there's square footage per dog, things like that. So, yes, it would be a discretionary decision by you guys.
So you say you're sharing the building. What part of the building are you guys gonna be in?
So right now, we're gonna be in the front, well, I guess like the front to the mid. And then when Bob retires, we will have the entire building, and honestly, the goal was to move everybody closer to the back of the building. As we would like to utilize, as we've also found, dogs love to get their sniff on. And so we tend to, we want to utilize the woods in the back. They love that. They love to just bebop around in the woods, throw a ball in the woods, hunt for it. So I guess in our rotations, because it's definitely going to have to be a rotation of dogs in and out of the building. And when they're out there, everybody will be generally kept to the back of the building.
So, as far as, you know, chain link fence and things like that, I understand the concept of the typical screening as far as for vision. What material are you looking at for sound prevention?
So we actually looked at a couple of different ones, and it is a vinyl, but there's a honeycomb foam inside of it. I can't remember the name of the company. Again, we weren't 100% sure how it was all going to go, so that is kind of sort of still in the works, but it is meant for exterior sound absorption. So that way, hopefully, if there is any sound, it will kind of sort of go that way. I don't even have any videos of the house either.
I think we would need to see what that type of material would be.
I'd like
Because
to-
there is a significant residential area behind that building.
I'd also like to see a site plan with the proposed fence on it.
Meaning, I'm sorry.
You can probably, with the building, well, because this is a commercial building, it should be easy. You can just go down to town hall and ask for your plot plan.
Mhm.
And then you just basically draw in where you're planning on
Fencing in?
fencing in,
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
And you're
That
gonna have
wasn't
to-
on the, I thought I did that already.
Are you
Okay.
planning on clearing any trees?
Nope.
Okay. And you're gonna have to check and make sure it's outside the 100-foot protection area in regards to wetlands.
Yep, I did do that, so
Okay.
maybe that's what I thought I did.
Otherwise, you have to go to Conservation Commission and get approval for them.
Okay.
Can I just say this? I'm curious because it's not a large town. I think we have 11,000 plus people living here. Do you think, on your end, that you'll be able to establish a business that's gonna warrant that many dogs coming in?
I actually have zero doubt that I will be able to. Aside from clients who actually requested that I open someplace from my previous employment. We're close enough to Route 44 with the traffic flow that runs, towards 495, over to the new Amazon. I don't think it's going to be a huge problem. However, we're not necessarily, again, 75 was just kind of sort of where we went. If it needs to be less, we can maybe work with that. Again, we're just trying to get to a break-even number where we can have a successful business help the town, hire some kids around here. I grew up here. My sister and my parents still live here.
Also, there's a lot of doggy daycares around who have more than 80-plus dogs on wait lists. You know,
Yeah,
waiting to get in.
was the next question that I had, because I know where you guys are proposing, there's, within 2 blocks of you, there's 2 other places. You got the dog mall, and there was another
There's-
place.
The
I'm not
dog
sure
mall
if
is
it's
closed.
Oh, they closed that,
They
well, because
closed
I
it,
walk
yeah.
by there all the time, there's people going in and out all the
Yeah,
time.
it's changed, but I don't know what it is, so, but it's not a dog mall anymore.
Well, I know it's not, I know that part of it, but it still seems like, I know they're doing training, exercising and different, I'm not sure exactly what they're doing.
That's,
so-
well, when we approved that, that wasn't a real doggy daycare, that was more for a training facility,
Okay.
I thought, yeah. It was more of
Alright.
a training and,
Rehab.
yeah, it
I
wasn't a
So
doggy
Althea
daycare.
actually, one of our staff, she works,
Back
Oh,
in
okay.
October, they sold the building to a separate business, and while they kept the dog mall as a business open, they no longer work out of there,
Huh.
and they actually I was working with them, and then they kind of stopped responding to me and booking appointments, so I don't really know what's going on in regards to the dog mall. But I
Okay.
do know, as of October 1st, that building no longer belongs to them, they sold it.
So they're just in that metal building then, next to it, or?
Nope, they don't
There's
have a
not even-
physical location anymore. They sold both of the buildings. There was the rehab center, which was a
Yep.
small residential looking one, and then there was the metal building. Both of those went to the same person.
They weren't 2 separate lots either. They would have had to been, it would have had to go together.
Yeah.
So,
right.
we have other things, we get a lot more on the agenda tonight, so I think tonight, maybe we could schedule a site walk. But I do, there's somebody out in the audience, there's some people that are out in the audience that might like to speak. But I'd like to do a site walk. I'd like to have a plot plan of sorts showing where your fencing is gonna go and where your mats are gonna go and outside mats. Also like you to think on, I'm just, I hadn't read the application before, it's just and well, I guess you just told us tonight, but that's it's a lot of dogs. To me, it's kind of, I would like to know, what you could operate a business with if you reduce the size. It's just that we've always struggled with this, and we've always come up to, 8, 10, 12 dogs, and so it's just hard to.
It's hard to imagine a number that big.
imagine, and our bylaw doesn't really address this whole thing.
understood.
So, if you could give that a thought, but in the meantime, I know if there's anybody out in the audience that would like to speak, and if that lady could just, yeah,
Judy Richards.
You
I
get-
live at
if you could just, yeah, sit in the chair. Thank you, Judy.
Judy Richards, I live at 5 Lillian Way. My backyard borders their desired place to be. There's a lot of questions. I think 75 dogs is a lot. It's not just me that it's going to affect. I would hate to be in the dentist chair of the building right next door and hearing dogs barking. I know this is the first time in front of the board, so I have 1,000 questions. The board has a lot of questions. And I did look up the zoning and the 11-dog thing. The other part is the water. Does that building have town water or well water? I get the whole disposal. I've done some investigation and looking into doggy daycares. Maybe I'm going to go by one and listen to see if I hear noise. I do hear where the old dog mall was. I could hear their dogs barking the same time every day. So I'm sure it was one of the times that they went out to do their exercise. And I love animals and I know dogs bark, but We've all been to weddings where there's been 100 people, and the noise level is loud. And when Bob retires, I assume he's the guy that owns Arnold Refrigeration in the back. There's not really that much back space out there. It's more just for trucks to drive around. The inside kennels, how big are they going to be? I mean, I get it, they want to start a business, I'm all for it, but we have to be considerate for everybody in the area, not just the business. And it sounds like also they want to keep some dogs overnight. That's another barking issue. Great for a business area where you can go and put in general business, and it's like a warehouse area. Nobody's really going to hear, but there are a lot of homes that will hear that, especially with the development that they put in off of Plymouth Street. Their properties border also. So I know this is probably going to come to more meetings, and I just hope that it can all be ironed out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak?
Hello, my name is Josh Goodman, lifelong resident of Carver. Just basically wanted to speak on my knowledge of these folks and their experience. So as Carrie said, they all previously worked at a doggy daycare in Kingston. Frankly, that business had more dogs than they're proposing. I know for a fact, I visited there on a couple occasions. I know they had way more dogs. You could be standing in their front office, hear nothing. I swear it, I promise you. Don't know how to explain it. I swear to God, they're wizards. Honestly, again, as a lifelong resident, one thing I would hate to see is this business almost be kneecapped because our town didn't think to write our bylaws to accommodate a growing business. As far as that, fear of the bylaws not accommodating in terms of specific numbers, specific dogs per square foot, dogs per person. I would hate to see that be the defining reason why you deny these fine folks their business. Other considerations aside. Honestly, I live with someone right behind my home who is, I don't know, status of kennel or not. They have a few dogs themselves. And I can tell you, it is all about how you handle those dogs. If you're calm, they're calm. If you're worked up, they're worked up. You can have 10 dogs who are making a ton of noise, and I've seen, again, 80 dogs make basically no noise. Basically, I just want to urge you to actually try and see some places that are doing this. Definitely, don't be intimidated by that 75 number because that's a maximum. Not every day you're going to have that. You're not going to have 75 dogs all in one room all at a time. And, this is just me speaking as someone who is not trained anything, Frankly, I just want to urge you guys to come and do it with an open mind and give them the chance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Which, brings up a question, and if you could speak about this before we set a time for a site visit. But how do you handle the dogs at night? Do you just, say if you were going to board dogs in the building at night, is there somebody there with the dogs at
Yeah,
night?
We would definitely make sure that we had somebody in the building overnight. I get most facilities do not. Animal control officers, they generally don't. I personally was never really comfortable not having someone in the building. And we had access to cameras 24/7. Like I just could turn on my phone and I could see everything that was happening. There were motion detectors in the building. Again, if you're 15, 20 minutes away though and there's something happening, you're 15, 20 minutes away. Generally, when dogs go to bed at night, they're in a kennel. They're not gonna be running around the building loose. It's not like that. Probably, I would say, maybe do a potty break, like you get to go out, go to the bathroom, come back in, usually 9, 10 o'clock, just like if they were at home, except for they go in, they get put in their kennels, crates, dependent on the dog and where they need to be. And then the overnight person, in my ideal world, would clean and get rid of, do all the kind of sort of scrubbing and stuff that we would have to have someone extra during the day to do if we didn't have somebody overnight. Because, again, part of keeping the dogs quiet is the attention that they receive from the humans. And once you have a pack that is quiet, it's like bringing someone else into, so you have a whole, I know she had mentioned, a wedding with 100 people and they're all talking, and that absolutely happens. However, those same 100 people that are sitting in the wedding while the pastor is doing the vows are all quiet, because that's what the pack is doing. Generally speaking, all of our dogs have grown up in a daycare center. They are socially appropriate. They understand, when we're stepping in, you guys got to be quiet, coming in the house, in the building, and, whatever. And then you bring in, and dogs don't, it's not like you're going to have 20 dogs get dropped off at the same time either. So you don't have that energy either. So when a dog comes into a building, it's called a sally port. That's what we call it. I don't really know what it's called. But it's just an area. The dog comes in, settles down for a second before they're allowed to go through that next gate to join the group. So they're not coming across a room, just out of control. They come in, they settle themselves, then they get to join the rest of the group that's already come. And they tend to follow suit. Again, think of a preschool classroom when or a kindergarten classroom. When it's time to sit down and be quiet and do circle time, it's time to sit down and be quiet and do circle time. If we have to put a dog on a leash and move them along, then we put a dog on a leash and we move them along. It's not, I'm sorry, you're being loud. Do you have to go into timeout? There's so many different ways that we can move them and approach them, I guess is the word that I want to use, in regards to getting them to be quiet. Eye contact is really, truly, it's not just not just like a look up and it's make eye contact with me. You sit down, we have a little bit of an eye contact conversation. You've broken the thought process that you just had over here. And then they have to kind of revisit, what did I do? How did that work? And it really genuinely gets to a point where when you get the experience, which again, we have, that's all, I'm not walking in with a bunch of untrained staff who have no idea, they've never worked with a dog. It's not playtime, it's not, you don't come in and play with a bunch of puppies all day. It's just not, it's work. It is a job without question. You move a room around. You don't just sit there and, play on your phone. You have to walk. You have to make sure that their waters are full. You have to pay attention to what they're doing. It's a teacher in a classroom. That's the goal. And the goal is for them to be able to have fun, but really do it in a controlled, appropriate manner.
All right, not to cut you off, but I'd like to schedule a site visit so we could take a look at the facility, maybe even inside and outside.
Okay.
And if you could have a sketch ready for us, or where you want to put the fences, that would really be good too.
Okay.
So that we could have that in our hand or whatever, and see what you could plan on doing.
Okay.
So today's the 25th. Say sometimes next week, we could do, would anybody be able to do it, say like February 1st, which would be a Tuesday, say at noon time. Is that all right for everybody?
I'll be in Providence.
Well, I could take you out there afterwards, or what day would be a good day?
I could probably do it later in the day.
Oh,
but-
okay.
But at noon time, that's right
Yeah,
in the middle of my work.
right.
so.
Some people do have to work, yeah. Okay, what time would that be?
I don't know, I'm doing.
Okay, all right.
Right now, as far as I know, I'm doing software updates.
All right,
Aside
so,
from that, I don't know what else I'm doing.
so if we did it on Tuesday and we did it at noon time, would that be all right with you? Maybe, would you be able to do that?
Oh, yeah.
Somebody be out there?
Yeah.
And then
I could
if-
do something like around 5, between 5 and 6 or something
if
like that,
somebody
probably.
could escort Mr. Gatsky that day
Absolutely.
at a later
Absolutely.
hour of the day?
Yep.
Okay, so say we schedule a site visit at noon. Okay, and if you have a sketch, and so what we'll do is, right now, we'll continue this meeting. I want to talk to the building inspector, and I want to also talk to the Board of Health. Have you ever, generally, if we had a plan here, and I'm sorry, I know.
No, it's okay.
You've had this application at Town Hall for, I just want to tell the members here, the application's been sitting there for a good month or more, probably 2 months. And it's because we lost our planner,
Yep.
and we've had a lot of other things come up. And it was just hard for me to get this on the agenda, so finally we did. Generally, the process would be that even before you came to the board, somebody like the planner or whatever would talk to you, just to get the lumps and bumps out. and,
Yeah, I
know.
did talk to Jim Walsh.
Jim Walsh, yeah.
I did talk to him, and
Yeah.
then I talked to
Yeah,
Paul Boucher.
yeah, he's the building inspector, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
he actually already did a drive-by,
Okay,
or drive around. When
Yes.
when we spoke, he said that he didn't see, at least building-wise, whatever,
yeah.
his knowledge
Okay,
is.
all right.
He said that he didn't see a problem with it.
Okay, I know it's a big building,
Mm-hmm.
so that's why I'd like to do a site visit.
Yep.
And if you could show us what you
Sure.
have inside and what it's gonna look like on the outside. And if you could have a sketch and then figure, how many dogs you could live with there, or,
Wait, was 75 dogs for the whole building? Or
Yes.
for the section that you were?
No,
Okay.
the whole entire building. There is, yeah, again, we love what we do.
I'm a registered nurse, like, this is my job of choice. Like, I will do this for free. You know what I mean, like that, I love it that much.
So, but because we love our job, we do it very, very well. We really do. The reason that we left the jobs that we had is because they did not do it very, very well. In regards to quiet, yes. In regards to safety and numbers and following bylaws and rules, absolutely not. So again, checking other towns in the general vicinity in a commercial daycare, it generally is 15 dogs to one person. For me, I look at that number and think, honestly, that's kind of high, but if we maxed out at that, I'm completely comfortable with that, with the staff that we have. So again, even the ones that are coming in and being trained, some of the protocols would be a full 2 weeks of training. It's not, you don't just get thrown out there and go, yeah, figure out what you're gonna do and play with some puppies. You can't do that. You just can't do that. There is absolutely cleaning, there's sanitation, there's disinfection. all of those things have to be taken into account because those can shut your business down. Not only can they shut your business down, you have sick dogs, they're killing your reputation. Those are the things that we're like really, honestly, super careful about in regards to noise. If you have a bunch of neighbors complaining, then you guys are coming to me and you're going, sorry, you're out. And then I'm going, great, where am I going to another place? Or, I can't control the situation. If we can't control the situation, then we shouldn't be in that situation.
All right. So I'd like a motion to continue the hearing to February 8th at 7 o'clock.
Cornelia Shea makes a motion to continue. Carrie Galbraith?
Yes.
Public hearing for the doggy daycare till February 8th
At 7 o'clock.
at 7 o'clock.
I'll second that.
Okay. Okay, let's vote.
Cornelia Shea says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Ellen Sordillo, aye.
Okay, so that's 5-0. All right, so we'll see you Tuesday, February 1 at noontime.
I will be there. Thank you so very much.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you for your time, everyone.
That's 72 North Main Street.
That is
The old
72
Restore
North
It?
Main Street, yeah.
The old Restores It,
The
next
old
to
Habitat
Corvette
Restores.
Mike's.
Yeah.
Habitat Restore. All right, so the next is public hearing notice in accordance with the provisions of the Town of Carver zoning bylaw. The Carver Planning Board will hold a public hearing on January 25th, 2022 at 7 PM in the Carver Town Hall, Meeting Room 1, on the application of Colin Harris requesting a special permit pursuant to Section 2230 and 5300 of the Carver zoning bylaw, located at 38 Purchase Street in Carver, Mass., which is Assessors Map 59, Lot 1-27, to redesignate the home from a single family with an in-law apartment to a two-family home. Any persons interested in wishing to be heard should appear at the time and place designated. A copy of the plan is on file at the Planning Department and may be reviewed during normal business hours. Carver Planning Board, Bruce Mackey, Chair. Carver Reporter, published dates January 7th and January 14th, 2022. So, just looking through the paperwork here, and in your packet, you have, it says, I am applying for a special permit in order to redesignate my residence as a two-family home. Currently, it is a single family with an in-law apartment, and I want to use this in-law apartment as a rental. There will be no construction of any kind. This project will make a small contribution to the available housing in Carver. So, and then included in the packet is a plot plan of what the lot looks like and the house on the property. And I spoke to, well, let me see, so in what I just read, it spoke of Article, Section 5300, which is a special permit definition, and 2230 is the use regulation schedule. And in that use regulation schedule, it talks about duplexes and two-family dwellings by special permit in an RA district. And on page 110, there's a definition of a two-family dwelling in the
Actually-
Carver zoning bylaw.
If you look at section 2260, that has to do with accessory apartments.
What was that again, 22?
Section 2260,
60? Okay.
yeah. The requirement being that it be limited to 800 square foot, which our apartment is less than 800 square foot.
Yes.
And it's the owner, you guys are living, you're the owners and live in the house?
We are not the owners, no.
Oh.
Yeah, if you could just introduce yourself, please.
Colin Harris,
And your address, please?
38 Purchase Street.
Okay. And who is with you?
Michelle Manley, 38 Purchase Street.
Okay.
We do both live at the residence.
All right, so if you could just speak about what you have there, and so you already have an in-law apartment there? So
Yeah.
if you could just tell us the little history of of your house?
Sure. We moved down from Melrose to Carver in 2016 with our 3 children. Michelle's mother and stepfather were actually bought the house, and they were living in the in-law apartment. Sadly, her mother died in 2018, and unfortunately, her stepfather died of COVID the end of 2020. So at that point, so they are still technically the owners of the house.
I'm the executor of the estate.
Michelle is the executor. And we very much want to stay in the residence because our kids are in school in the area, and we want to stay here, at least until they're finished school. Unfortunately, we need the income from the rental apartment in order to stay in the house. And so that's why we would like to seek a special permit in order to rent that space.
All 3 of my kids are special needs. Each of them are on a 504 or an IEP. They have been through so much, losing both grandparents in a very short period of time. We very much just want to keep the house. That's really the whole point. And the continuity of schooling is going to be so essential for them, and that's our biggest thing. That is our biggest takeaway. We just want to stay here. And we're open to whatever stipulations or, we're just trying to, we're very invested in the town. We love the town. We want to stay. And that's the bottom line.
So a question that I have, since your parents purchased the house, is it in probate? Are there other children?
My
Do you have
sister and I-
siblings involved?
I have one sister involved, and she's totally on board with whatever we want to do. She's just like, if you guys can keep the house, and then we'll just buy out her portion of the, of whatever would have come if we had sold the house.
Okay.
Okay, so.
I did speak to the building inspector about this, and so we kind of went over. He just gave me a note, and said, the use table allows a 2-family in the RA district by special permit. And he said, I would recommend that the following conditions of the special permit that pertain to the area of the accessory apartment. And he added that no additions to increase the square feet of living space would be 1. And 2 would be all utilities share 1 meter.
We actually, it has 2 separate
Oh, it has 2 meters already?
It came that way.
Okay. It has 2 means of egress are required to the outside per the state building code, and do you have that?
Yes, we do.
All right. And it only has 1 bedroom?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay. And there would have to be provide off-street parking, like for 2 cars? Would that be?
Yes, actually, there would be parking in our driveway for 2 cars, in
Okay.
addition to what we have.
It would be 4 cars total.
You could get a lot more than that.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yes.
there's plenty of space.
Plenty of space, yeah.
We have a 2-car garage plus a parking spot behind, plus you could fit 2 in the front.
And there's also this side road, there's parking on the road as well. So, yeah.
So, I don't know, Amy's with us here tonight. I don't know if you had time to look at this, or if you're familiar with laws about this. I don't know if you have any input into this or not.
I didn't get a chance to look through everything, but I understand the purpose of why they're here. 2,600 unfortunately won't help them because that's limited to residents age 55 and older or handicapped residents. And so where they're looking for an income-based apartment, I think they would need to not be constrained in that way. I think what the board needs to think about is this is a special permit. And so you have to go through your special permit requirements, which is, will this be more detrimental to the neighborhood? And I mean, it's already there, it exists. So the difference is that they had two people, one of which was related to them living there, and now they're not gonna have two people, one of which isn't, or both of which are not related to them. I'm not sure how that impacts the neighborhood at all, really.
My question would be, now it can't be an accessory apartment, because that's only allowed in commercial spaces. As a two-family home, could it be restricted to single home ownership rather than, 10 years down the line, they want to split that up and sell it?
Yeah, that could be a condition.
Okay.
That could be a condition on the special permit.
And how would we, handle, something goes wrong with the septic tank? Well, if it's a two-family home, you're both responsible, but then you got 3 bedrooms on one side, 1 bedroom in another, or the roof needs to be replaced.
No, it's single ownership.
Okay, so.
So the single
it would
owner,
fall
is
okay.
responsible.
All right.
Yeah.
It's a
That's-
rental, it's a
That's why
rental
keeping
property.
the single
yeah.
ownership is a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. If they were to divide it, because of the fact that the house is, the unit is inside the house, honestly, I think the only way they could do it would be to condo it, and if they condoed it, then they'd
Right.
have percentage. They'd have to,
Yes.
so they'd have to pay 75% of the roof, the other people would have to pay 25. But I think the single ownership is a much better idea.
Now you have an exit out the back of the house for the in-law apartment, and you have an exit for the main house out the back, and in the front you have an entrance for the main house. Where's the other entrance for the new apartment?
It's on the second floor, there's a set of stairs.
In the front. They come through the garage.
They would come
No,
through the garage?
no.
No.
You're talking about the second floor.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I
no, there's a second
misunderstanding.
floor egress down a set of stairs. There's a like a sort of deck up there, and off the deck there's a set of stairs down into the parking area.
And that's in the back of the house?
That's in the back.
So that's the
Two exits
rear
in the back.
exit?
There are
Where's-
2 exits in the back.
There's
Oh,
two
both
rear
exits are in the back?
One on the up, one above, one below.
I don't think that's a building issue. but I think-
No, and I think they only need two ingress and egress, one for the house, one for the apartment, for the building code at least.
Okay, I thought the apartment needed its 2 and
I
the
don't think
house
so.
needed 2, okay.
Yeah,
But that-
well, I'll have to ask the
That
building
would,
inspector
that is
about
the,
that.
that's a
yeah.
building code. That wouldn't be on us.
Right, and that would, right, and it doesn't lead into a common area, in other words, it doesn't come into the top of the stairs in your living room or something along those lines?
No.
Okay.
Just for, is that the house?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you look at this, Connie, you can see there's an entrance right here and there's an entrance right here.
Oh, okay, I
So
was
you
looking
have
at it,
2
but it
entrances
didn't
in the
fit.
front.
But the 2
So one
entrances
to the
in
main
front
house
for
and one to the
main house.
apartment, is that, or do you just have,
No, the 2 entrances in the front
yeah,
are to our
Okay.
To the main
to the
house.
main
And the
house.
2 in the
Oh,
back.
okay.
Two in the
Two
back
accessory.
are for the
Okay.
in-law.
oh, okay, all right, so that's how it goes. Okay, so actually you have 4 entrances into the building, 2 in the
Plus-
front for
plus
the
the
main,
garage
2
if
in the,
you-
2
Plus
in the
the
one in the
garage as
back.
well, you get in that.
Oh, okay, then you have a 3rd into the garage, which is what, to the main house or to the?
It goes to both.
Goes
Yeah,
to
I mean,
both,
it goes to an area where, where both
Common
have
area.
access to, yeah.
yeah,
I mean, the common area is like a set of stairs down.
all right. Okay, I don't know if there's any other concerns about this. Does anybody want to go out and take a look at this and take a look at the neighborhood and at the yard and the driveway if we continue this to the next meeting and to,
I'm familiar with the neighborhood over there, so.
all right. Does anybody want to take a look at this?
I drove by it today, and you know, it seems like it would be fine in that regard.
Right.
I was concerned about the, you know, the entries and exits as well, but you clarified that.
And you say it has separate utilities?
Yes.
For electric, does it have gas?
It doesn't have gas,
No
it just
gas.
has electric.
And you would be providing the water and sewer
Yeah.
in regards to that? I don't have. I'm familiar with the area.
All right. This is the public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience that has anything to say? All right.
So the only, well, the big thing that I'd like to see, and big caveat that I have is, I understand that you're the executor, and you have a sister. I would like to see that like a certified affidavit,
Okay.
that your sister knows what's happening and that she's agreeable to it.
I think they
And,
would both have to sign the permit. They would both be required to sign off on the permit. If you're both executors,
Yes.
I would think that would be,
Oh, yeah, you're both executors?
Yes.
Yep, they would.
Okay, yeah, they're,
All right, so would it, I mean, I guess that everybody's agreeable on the board. Would you be able to write a decision for this?
Sure.
Okay. So if we could take a look at the decision, if we could continue this meeting to our February 8th meeting, and then we can go over the decision, and then we can vote on it then. It seems like everybody's agreeable with it.
Thank you.
So,
Just her.
I'll entertain a motion.
Before we entertain a motion, who filled out the application for, yes, so you and your sister are gonna have to fill out the application.
Oh, okay.
And you're gonna have to provide, your license or some other form of identification
Okay.
downstairs and proof that you're the executor of the estate.
Okay.
And then I think that will satisfy.
yeah, letters of
Okay.
administration.
Just have it as an
Yeah.
addendum to
Yeah.
the application,
Absolutely.
just a signature page with your signature and
Cause,
your sister's.
'cause you can't, you're not the owner of record, so
Okay.
we appreciate what you've done though. But I will, if you're okay, I will make the motion to continue this. What's your name, please?
Michelle Manley.
Michelle,
Manley.
I will make a motion to continue Michelle Manley's hearing on 38 Purchase Street to February 8th of 2022.
I'll
7
second
o'clock.
that.
Yep. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. So that was, let's see, that was Mr. Shea and then Mr. Robinson. Okay, let's take a vote.
Cornelia Shea says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Ellen Sodillo, aye.
All right.
Thank you.
So we'll continue this at our next meeting, which would be February 8th. All right,
you very much.
and if you could, if there are any questions, and if you need to get in touch, you can get in touch with the planning board here, and then we could send it on, something to KP Law if you needed something answered or something like that, or if you had any other concerns. Okay.
Great. Thank you very much.
All right, under other business, we have a request for, we have two of these, requests for extension for site plan review and special permit. And the first one is on 204 Plymouth Street. And it's for solar, it's map 48, lots 2, 6, and 7. And it's for, this is for a discussion and possible vote. Good evening, Sarah.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Sarah Stearns with Beals and Thomas.
As the chairman mentioned, this is a request for an extension on the site plan decision that was issued for the solar project at 204 Plymouth Street. If you recall, this was a decision issued to the Weston family through the developer Sunrays in, let me see, June of this past summer. So the combined site plan review special permit procedure is a combined procedure for permitting, but in our interpretation and my discussions with Jim Walsh prior to his departure, and I believe he spoke with Amy Questle at one point about this as well, that even though the bylaw allows for the combined site plan special permit review, each component has different expiration dates. So the site plan component is valid for a year, whereas the special permit component is valid for 2 years. So we're really here just to request the extension on the site plan, proactively knowing that the Eversource group studies are going to continue beyond the life of the site plan component. So that's really all it is. It's just a brief letter that was sent to you for a very brief description of what we're looking for with the decision attached. And, you know, we're requesting a 1-year extension on the site plan that would make it coincident with the life of the special permit as well.
All right, well, normally we've done this in the past, where we just voted to extend the time for the site plan review. Are there any questions by the planning board?
What seems to be the issue with the Eversource interconnection study?
It's exorbitantly delayed statewide.
Do you have a letter
A letter,
from Eversource?
I do not.
So how are you notified by they just haven't done it, so.
The developer is in contact with Eversource, you know, constant contact. And it sounds like it won't be until the fall that their study would be released. So this permit, this segment of the permit would lapse before that study came out by a few months. So we're just trying to extend the life of it to match the special permit. Just, it kind of cleans things up too, so that the life of the two components is the same.
Has anything been done on the project?
No,
No work whatsoever?
no.
Do you feel that Eversource is going to turn down interconnection points?
I don't know the details of it, honestly, but it does not sound that way.
Then how come no work has been done whatsoever?
I don't think work can commence until that green light, so to speak, has been given. I don't really know the nuance of how the SMART program works in terms of that, but that is the next step in the process, as I understand it, that would need to commence before anything could start.
Well, you don't know exactly, I mean, we've done these things before where they've actually maybe moved around some of the electrical components in the field and maybe done some things by the street or something that have changed from the plan. I mean, once they do their study, is that true? So you really can't go and build a project without them having studied it and saying that it's okay as it was approved in case they did have to make changes.
Yes, and I believe it's a requirement of the SMART program for that to be complete before anything can commence.
Oh, okay, yeah, it makes sense, yeah. Okay.
So what study was made to put like the 11 poles in there?
I'm sorry? I'm not sure what the question is.
All right, I do remember this project, and we wanted to go underground all the way to the street, and you said NSTAR recommended that poles be set up.
Yes.
So if they haven't started, how'd you get to that point there?
So that was the recommendation for this specific project in terms of the interconnection. The group study is a larger scale study of the grid in the area.
So NSTAR has nothing to say on that?
Yes, it's their study of the grid for interconnection of multiple solar projects. And this is a statewide study, as I understand it. So we're not proposing that anything is changing at this point. It's just a matter of extending the life of the site plan decision that was issued for this. The special permit is still valid for its
For
2 years.
Yeah.
So this is, it was issued as a combined. We just want to, make sure that both components are viable for the same length.
Yeah, I remember talking to Jim, I think, about this. Yeah, one was only for a year and another was for 2.
Right.
So you're just getting another year, so, off this.
One thing that he and I talked about at one point in this discussion too is that it's helpful, I think, for applicants and the board too, to, perhaps add some language to decisions that talk about expirations, just so everyone understands how it works. And one of the ideas I think that he had was to, potentially have that site plan component automatically renew after 1 year so that it has the same life as the special permit for project. I mean, I think most of the projects that you review are combined site plan, special permits these
Right.
days. So it would be not just for solar projects, but it would be similar for other types of reviews as well. I don't know. Something to think about down the line, but.
All right, I'll entertain a motion for the extension of site plan review and special permit well, it's just site plan review.
Right, correct.
For 204 Plymouth Street.
I'll make that said motion.
Second.
Okay, so Kevin Robinson and then Ellen second. All right, let's take a vote.
Because I voted no on it the first time, I felt it didn't meet the requirements of the bylaws. I'm going to have to vote no.
John Gasky says yes.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Ellen Sordillo, aye.
Okay, so that was 4 to 1 vote. All right, so then we have 40 Fuller Street. And it's the same deal.
Yes. So just, I guess, for the record, again, Sarah Stearns with Beals and Thomas, and this is another solar project proposed and approved in, I gotta look back, May of 2021. And the applicant is requesting the same site plan extension for the same reason.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to extend the site plan review for 40 Fuller Street solar.
Cornelia Shea will make the motion to extend the site plan review for 40 Fuller Street Solar.
I'll second.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, to point of order, I just wanted to note that Mr. Robinson had recused himself from this vote. I don't know if that matters for this vote, but just wanted to point that
Oh,
out.
that was because he was in a butter?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll just recuse again.
Yeah, okay. All right, let's take a vote then.
Cornelia Shea says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Ellen Sordillo, aye.
So it's 4, 0, and 1.
Thank
No,
you.
It's
Yeah, 401.
401, yeah.
So I can just coordinate with Michelle in the office at some point to pick up the letter or whatever the board will issue.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have, Yeah, well, have we done this before on other projects?
Yes.
If, I don't know if you know what, if you could give her an idea of the address of some of the other projects, so we could come up with,
I can send her the letter that I've
yeah,
received.
the letter, so
Yeah,
that we
she
could just.
can use it as a
do it.
template.
Yeah,
Okay,
yes.
great.
Okay,
It was
thank-
4011, so yeah.
Okay, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you all. Have a nice night.
Because he voted on the original.
Right, you voted on that?
No, I didn't. He said.
Can't because it's a site plan extension.
Oh, right, not special permit, right, yeah,
Yeah, okay, yeah.
my mistake.
Okay, so we've done that. All right, we have on our agenda, and this is something we're gonna have to talk to Amy about, the removal, so we have two pole removal projects that were solar, and, it came to us as a minor modification to plan, and that one was on 324/340 Tremont Street, and the other one was at 62 Rochester Road. And the planning board voted 3-2 to approve. But since then, we've had 3 open meeting law complaints. And so we do have decisions written for these. But we've only had, and I'm not sure, we've had one open meeting law complaint addressed by Glenn Corbo of KP Law.
Yep, correct.
And then now we have 2 other complaints that have not been addressed yet.
This isn't the original one that's here in front of me? Because I haven't seen that yet.
The original,
The one we voted on, or the board voted on a couple weeks ago to have town council handle. I still haven't seen a copy of it.
copy of, I don't know.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I only know about one, besides Miss I think it's Dormer. Is it Mrs.
This-
Dormer?
Yeah, we
this-
had,
and then there was mine.
we've had.
Yeah, so I know about Mary Dormer, that's all done, we sent the letter.
Well,
And I know about Mr. Shea's open meeting law complaint, I don't know of a third one, I haven't seen it
We
yet.
we received a third one today from
okay.
Mr. Gatsky.
I thought this was the original one, so I was a little confused.
That is that's
This
original in
is,
time.
yeah, but on my desk was this one.
Oh, I haven't seen
Yeah,
that one, got it, okay. And
So-
so with regard to the open meeting law complaint, at least from Mr. Shea, it's along the same lines as the one from Ms. Dormer, where there was an allegation that site plan was being modified and it was not being modified with Section 11, public hearing, et cetera. Those are all things that are outside of the purview of the open meeting law. Those are regulated by 48 Section 11. So there's a difference. It has nothing to do with the open meeting law. The open meeting law is mostly, the complaints about open meeting law are if a quorum is not achieved and there's a decision made, if there's deliberation outside of a public meeting, and one of the most common ones we get is minutes that are not approved on time. So we would respond to Mr. Shea's complaint the same way that we're responding to Ms. Dormer's complaint, which is sending a letter to the supervisor or to the Attorney General, stating that, in our opinion, the allegations don't rise to the level of an open meeting law complaint. There are points that were made in the open meeting law complaint that are valid, but they're not regulated by the open meeting law, in my opinion.
No, mine included a procedural violations complaint too.
And the procedure had to do with 48 Section 11. So when something is procedurally, if something is done and voted on and procedurally that's wrong, the only recourse for that is an appeal of that decision.
So,
But at this point, with a procedural violation, that could happen at any time.
The decision, the decision hasn't been made yet, so once the decision is made, there's 20 days to file an appeal.
Right,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah, and so, with regard to the two decisions, and with regard to the votes that were taken, I went back and I watched the meeting, I also looked at the application. The applicant actually only requested a minor modification to the site plan review. So there's site plan review and there's special permit. A special permit, in my opinion, there cannot be a minor modification of a special permit. Any modification of a special permit has to be done in accordance with 48 Section 11, meaning there has to be a public hearing. So that means that whoever wants to modify their special permit has to notify all of the abutters, has to put it in the newspaper for, twice, it has to be posted at the town clerk, and then you have a public hearing, and that special permit can be modified. And so, as an aside, I don't know why anybody would modify a special permit, because you can just come in and ask for a new special permit, and it starts the 2 years all over again. So that's really, there's no mechanism for a modification of a special permit within the statute, and there's also there's no mechanism within your bylaw. Under site plan review is different. Site plan review is not pursuant to a statute. It's a home rule zoning regulation, and this board does allow minor modifications to site plan review. And so the question then becomes, is changing the timbers, the pilings, does that impact the special permit that was granted? With regard to solar in your bylaw, solar is allowed by special permit, so the use is allowed by special permit. Your bylaw also requires, within that special permit granting authority, things such as setbacks, such as screening, all of these other things. It doesn't necessarily regulate the materials that are used, and therefore that's when you would regulate those materials through site plan, because site plan, you look at the entire project and how the project impacts the area, things like that, the internal circulation, pedestrian traffic, things like that are all included in site plan. And so it appears to me that the applicant correctly applied for a minor modification of site plan review, of the site plan approval, which, in my opinion, only takes, it's a majority vote, because it's not a special permit. They are separate. Issuing one permit for both is confusing. We just went through why it's confusing. So we might want to consider issuing, two separate decisions, or, two separate decisions in one permit. So, because I'm also looking at people have to record these. So we don't want them to have to go and, record all these extra pieces of paper because they charge per page, whatever it is, but things like that. But we could maybe come up with a way to have two permits issue rather than this one permit, because I really think it's causing a lot of confusion. I think that when someone comes in for a minor modification of site plan, which is allowed in the bylaw, all of a sudden it turns into a modification of the special permit, and that's not allowed. So, so that's where we're at. So the two decisions that were sent, they were reviewed by Andy. The changes that I made to the two decisions, where I deleted any reference to the special permit. So the special permit is not changing. Only the site plan is changing by the switching out of the materials for the piles. And because it is only the site plan that's changing, because that's all they asked for, was the site plan to change, the 3-2 vote would pass, in my opinion.
Okay, so. I'd like to see the application. And,
So the application
To
is
that-
actually a form, it's a form, it's a planning board form, and it's only for only for a minor modification of site plan approval. There is no application for special permit.
okay, I would like to see the application. But, so to that point, we just discussed that after 1 year site plan review expires.
Yeah.
This was approved back in 2019.
So
Best of my knowledge, my math works out that that's greater than 1 year.
it is, it is. However, a permit that was valid as of March 10th, 2020, that gets extended due to COVID, pursuant to a special act.
Where is that written?
It is the Chapter 53 of the Acts of 2020, which was modified by it was modified by, I think it's Chapter 2 something of the Acts of 2021. I can get you the site.
Appreciate it.
No problem.
All right, so I'd like to get these signed tonight. So we have 324 and 340. We've already approved this by a 3-2 vote. So, and we have the decision for 62 Rochester Road. That just needs signatures. So I'm just gonna pass this around, the first page. I'll sign, so. There's the second. So, do you plan on signing the conditions? Or signing so actually, we're signing the decision for the minor modification.
I voted no.
Okay. Now, the other question is, and Mr. Shea, are you gonna, would you sign? So we have the two members that voted no aren't gonna sign, but we do have a majority of votes.
Yep, that's fine.
So that's all we need is just a majority.
And, you know, if you are and you are your own person, but if you are in a jam where you vote on a decision and then the next week you have to sign the decision, you can sign the decision even if you voted no. All you are doing is acknowledging the vote. And I'm only saying this because I don't want to have a situation where the decision doesn't get signed and then it becomes constructively approved. Because if a project becomes constructively approved, we lose all of our conditions. And so, Mr. Gatsky, I have the sites. So the first one is Chapter 53 of the Acts of 2020. That's called the Municipal Relief Act. And then we have, the next one is Chapter 201 of the Acts of 2020. And those two together provide for a tolling mechanism for permits that were valid as of March 10th, 2020. You could also go on, not that I'm doing a plug for the firm, but you can go on the KP Law website, and if you go up to the top, it says COVID, you click on it, it has all of our e-updates, which we send to town planners and things like that, but you guys unfortunately don't have a town planner right now, so.
Right.
So that's why I don't think none of this is trickling down to you guys, so.
And none of this was invalidated because work was done without the approval outside of what was approved?
That would be an enforcement issue where that would be on, the building commissioner would have to seek enforcement. This board can't seek enforcement. The only thing this board could do would be to request the building commissioner to seek enforcement.
All right, so we've signed those two. So then we move on to, under other business, number 5 is, so we have I need a motion to authorize town council to draft a response to the open meeting law complaint on behalf of the planning board. And this particular complaint was filed by Cornelia Shea.
And
I'll
that
make
would
a
be
motion.
similar to the response we've already drafted.
Yes, but it
Yeah.
hasn't formally been voted on.
Right, no, I do need that vote.
Yeah.
And then at the next meeting, on the 8th, I'm gonna need we'll have to put it on the agenda again for the new one that came in today.
Okay, we'll
'Cause
take
it
that. Let's vote on this, and then I want to discuss that.
Okay.
All right, so I'll make that motion to authorize town council to draft a response to the open meeting law complaint on behalf of the planning board.
I'll second that.
So, okay, so that was Kevin, and then Ellen. All right, so I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's take a vote.
Cornelia Shea abstains.
I abstain.
Okay, Bruce Mackey, aye.
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Ellen Sodillo, aye.
Okay. Now, I was asked by the assistant town administrator, suggested that under topics not reasonably anticipated by the chairman within 48 hours advance of the meeting, that we could vote on this third, well, actually, the second one for tonight, which was a complaint filed by John Gatsky.
When was that submitted?
Today,
To the
Today.
town clerk today?
this morning, yes.
Okay.
Can we vote on that
Yeah,
now?
it wasn't anticipated. Did you, I looked at your last meeting was January 11th, right? You didn't say anything about the fact that you were going to file it, right? I didn't recall you said anything about that, right?
No,
Yeah,
I hadn't.
Then it wasn't anticipated. Then I'm fine with that, Bruce.
Okay, so,
So can I ask a question? So, if we agree to disagree, we can file complaints against each other? Because I don't understand how we're doing this as a board.
Well, there was no clarification. This decision that was written up specifically says modification to site plan and special permit. And 2 weeks prior, it was clearly outlined to us that there are no modifications to special permits. And not only that, but apparently there was a letter sent in August clarifying the subject to the board that wasn't disseminated. So I needed clarification for my own self, because this is something we've been talking about for over a year, where I've been questioning modifications to special permits as not being allowed, and yet it's been run over, and I've been told this is the way we've always done things. It's never been clarified for me. The way we've always done things doesn't always work for me either. If it's a special permit, it can't be modified, only the site plan review.
So how do we
can.
come together as a board if we file complaints against each other?
The way it's always been done is, again,
I'm
Right.
Well,
agreeing
because,
to disagree.
because if
No,
it comes,
I
if it
get
comes
that,
down
but-
to, if it comes to a point where, certain,
No,
where people are being.
I'm not asking you guys the
Right, right.
question, I'm asking Amy.
Okay, because
I don't understand how we can act as a board. I thought, we make our decisions, we agree, we disagree, you vote no, that's fine.
Right, right, yeah.
I vote yes, that's fine. I vote no on things too. But when we don't agree, so when we agree to disagree, we file complaints against each other. That's what I'm asking Amy, so
I filed a
I don't
procedural-
understand how we come together as a board, Amy, if we do that.
Well, I think if I could just say.
I'm uneducated, and I'm just serving the town, and I'm just like completely beside myself that I'm got like complaints against me because I'm voting my conscience, and that's why I'm asking council.
Well,
Why
again,
I'm
you
sitting
were-
here being.
And this wasn't about you, Kevin, and it
No,
wasn't
I
about
understand
you,
it's not
Ellen. It was
about me. That's why I'm asking
Right,
her.
Okay.
Because I want her to explain to me how this.
And I second him.
Well,
I don't understand this. I mean,
Well, I think part of the problem is that we don't always have the luxury to have Amy here at our meetings where we can ask these things and get an answer because she knows and there are a lot of things about the law we don't know. And, you know,
Shouldn't we agree to work
unfortunately,
together?
you know, it's, you know, sometimes when I send things out, they're not answered immediately because everybody's busy, everybody's working, and it's just impossible to get immediate answers. So sometimes when it comes up to a meeting, these things come up, don't have time to get an answer, and so I go by past experience and history, you know, what we've done.
well, I feel intimidated and harassed by the other members on the board because I'm disagreeing with them. And so is this what's gonna continue to happen? I mean, I'm confused. I really am confused.
So-
I mean, I understand if they have a complaint, that is, I don't understand how it can be against the other members of the board, because we all vote.
So I actually don't necessarily think that it's against the other members of the board. With regard to modifying.
But
the
if I
special
have to go and I
permit-
have to talk to somebody about a complaint filed against me, that, I take that as it's against me, as a member of the planning board.
Right, it's as a member of the planning board. It was against the planning board for some procedural mishaps that this person saw, or thought they saw, or they think that they're mishaps, they're procedural mishaps, which, there's a whole, it's a domino effect, if you ask me, because, you know, and I don't even know where it begins. Does it begin with the fact that, when you have these solar projects, it's my experience, particularly with the dual-use solar projects, that you always have changes in the field. There's changes in the field all the time. So, does it make sense that we issue one permit for, you know, a special permit and site plan, where we probably don't have to modify the special permit because things like screening and setbacks and the use, which is large-scale solar, is not
I simply
changing.
voted to get a pole out of the ground that could possibly have what I would consider seepage
Right.
into it. So because I vote that way, I have this against me.
So what happens when an open meeting law complaint is filed? It's filed, the board has a certain amount of time to address the complaint. And by addressing the complaint, you acknowledge it at a public meeting and send it to town council, make a vote to have town council respond in writing. And so what we do as town council is we then send our response to the Attorney General, because the open meeting law complaint automatically goes to the Attorney General. So we then send a response, and the AG then decides if further steps will be taken. So right now, I don't think that there will be further steps taken on Ms. Dormer's complaint. And then, you know, again, we'll take a look at Mr. Shea's, take a look at Mr. Gasky's, and honestly, it's Greg Corbo that addresses the open meeting law stuff. I'm a land use person, but they seem similar, so I think they're probably going to go away. I think to avoid this in the future, though, we should probably think about a way to separate these two permits so we don't run into this all the time. Because you are allowed to modify a site plan, but you're not allowed to modify a special permit, so it's.
It just makes us feel like, each person has their own special agenda, and it should be for the town that we're doing good, and not our own personal values or thoughts, and I just, after that happened, it made me think, we're supposed to be on the same team here.
We are, and
We're trying to take
Right.
poles out of the ground that could seep chemicals
Right,
into a
and
ground.
we
That's
asked-
Is
farm.
anybody gonna
Excuse me,
listen?
farm.
Is anybody
Excuse
gonna
me,
stop
you're
and
not-
listen for a
you're not-
moment?
Why don't I feel
You've got all these
intimidated and
questions.
harassed by you and you're
You've got
yelling
all
at me
these,
right
All right,
now.
you've got
hold
all
on,
these
hold on.
questions going on,
Hold
and you
on.
refuse to listen because every time somebody opens their mouth, you start shutting them down.
Okay,
So sit back and listen.
okay,
Two
let's take a
members-
vote, let's take a vote here. It's not gonna help anything to be yelling at one another. Unfortunately, these are things we have to go through, and I think, we could do better here if we had, maybe if we can get more legal advice on these things as Amy's here tonight, and we can avoid some of these things happening. I do understand how Kevin and Ellen feel. But I also understand that everybody has the right to question something, and we did get our answer about the open meeting laws. And we actually learned something, although it was in sort of a painful way. Okay, so motion to authorize town council to draft a response to the open meeting law complaint on behalf of the planning board, and this one was filed by John Gatsky. So, okay, so I need a motion.
Are we gonna read it? Has everybody had a chance to read the violation?
I didn't even know about it.
I don't
So-
think,
so-
well,
so
I
there
don't
you go.
think we need
There we go,
to,
Put it on
so
to the
let's
We don't
let
need-
everybody, let's let everybody read it and see what's going on.
well, I don't think we need to do that. I think
Are you
what we.
serious?
The legal, I think the legal limit is
I think that
disseminated to the board.
we think we have to give it to KP to address. It's not for us to, it needs
But
legal
everybody's sitting there
opinion.
complaining that we're all, that all these complaints are being thrown around and it's a personal attack. Don't you wanna know what you're?
Everybody has a copy of it. Everybody has a
Exactly.
copy.
Has everybody had a chance to read it?
Well, if they haven't, they will tonight, but we're here just to vote on, to have KP Law draft a response to the open meeting law complaint.
So I suggest we put this on for the February 8th agenda. We have the time, and the board has to acknowledge receipt of the complaint, and Mr. Robinson hasn't seen it. He hasn't received it.
Everybody has it. All right. All right, so, okay. So you suggest that we wait till our next meeting to vote on this?
Yeah.
All right. All right, so let's go on to planning board member notes. I don't have any planning board member notes. I don't know if anybody has anything that they want to say. If not, we'll go to planning director notes. I don't have anything to say. Discussion. I would say we did have the minutes for 12/14/21 and 12/28/21, but we just got some revisions to the minutes this afternoon, and we weren't able to make those corrections, so we're going to table those minutes. And I would say if any planning board members have any changes to any minutes, that they do so as quickly as possible and not leave it to the night of the day of the meeting. Because the day of the meeting, we're trying to scramble and get things together and assemble packages, and it's just difficult. So if you could do it right away, that would be good. All right, so having said that, So immediately following the adjournment of the planning board, immediately following the planning board meeting, we'll go into executive session and not to convene an open session. And let me read the, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session under General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation known as Ironwood Renewables LLC versus Town of Carver Planning Board and its members, Massachusetts Land Court, Civil Action Number 21, miscellaneous 000488, because, this can't be filmed.
After you go in.
Oh,
This
okay.
has to be filmed.
Okay, this is gonna be filmed, okay. Because I declare that discussing the matters in open session may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the board, with the board to not return to open session. So if I,
So moved.
okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
So, Ellen made the motion. And Mr. Shea, second?
Second, yes.
Okay. And, okay, so let's take a vote. Mr.
Cornelia Shea says aye.
John Gasky says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye?
Kevin Robinson, aye.
Ellen Sodillo, aye.
Okay. All right, good night, everyone.